1 into Unit 2. And how about a little bit of, all right, men's radio station, not half. Don't forget your Brentford nylons. I love that.
I almost caught heart failure then.
Why? Did you
Well, because
you thought Fluff was back? That would have been fantastic. I loved Fluff.
Well, it would have been a bit freaky. Well, it would have been a bit freaky if he was back. No, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong. Your superb impression of the man was, of course, absolutely brilliant. No, it was primarily because I have in the bottom right corner of my screen a little display showing me the time, and for some ridiculous reason, it was set to US time.
You're so international.
I don't know why it was set to US time.
You're the Joan Collins of broadcasting.
So I'd just been told it was 6 a.m. And I thought, my goodness me, I know I like to be punctual, but I didn't realize it was that bad.
What the hell are you doing up at 6 a.m.? Hey, by the way, good news. I think that the changes you've made to the digital green room are fantastic. That new sofa is the talk of radio. The talk of radio. Telling you now.
Well, I'm not surprised, really.
That's gorgeous. Where did you find deep red suede? Beautiful. Beautiful.
Can I tell you a secret between you and me?
Go on, yeah.
Custom made for MRS.
Wow.
It's just the way we roll.
I did think putting in the Cristal champagne for all our guests, Prosecco would have been all right. We're a CIC company. Let's dash straight up to Edinburgh because she knows if I don't say hello in a sort of Edinburgh accent, it's not a proper show with Veronica Curran. Veronica, good morning. Do love a Friday, do you, darling? I hate every day. Equally, I tell you what, Veronica was. We did the ABC of CBD last night, which was great. It was a lot. I'm just a passenger on that show, but Ollie insists I'm there. Kimi Lashma. Yay, hello. Oh, I can't read the rest of this. What is it? What is this crap?
Yeah, you can't say that because it was sticking in the craw. It was sticking in the craw, but she very flutteringly.
Phil Day back.
Well, Kimmy, it's very nice to be back. Thank you.
You will, love. You're not well. What's the matter with you? Emma Webb, you feeling better, Em? Hope so. Emma Webb, morning all. Emma sends me charming messages on Twitter. Emma, please stop thanking me. It's what I do. So there's absolutely no need to thank me for anything. It's fine. That's the whole purpose of MRS. We're here to help. So please. Mike Courtney, look at that. Look who's popped up. Hello, boys. Danny LaRue suddenly back. 35 years in the business. Hello, boys. How are you both today? I'm good. I'm pretty good, really.
We're still standing.
Fired up on single malt. Always gets me going. It's great.
Are you actually fired up on single malt at 3 minutes past 11? Heaven help us.
I'm on my. That'd be ridiculous. I wouldn't do that. That's the road to hell. No, I'm on my second lovely espresso. Thank you very much. Michael Verby, let's dash across to southern Spain. Morning, boys. From what I read, you're about to go back in time to the winter of discontent. Michael, shut your face. Just shut up. I haven't seen him since I was 13. Now I know why. Shut up, Michael. It sucks here. Believe me, if I could emigrate tomorrow, I would be on the next plane. Barry J. Allen. Oh, you got the music? No, we haven't got it, have we?
Nah.
Sorry, forget it. Sorry, been busy. Look, Barry, I think there's nothing more irritating than people pretend they've got real jobs, real careers, and are successful. I think that's bloody annoying, quite honestly.
I mean, you say that, but speaking of real careers and blooming successful.
Yes, and success. And success.
Our first guest is already in the digital green room, and it's very exciting to have her on the show.
I'm going to ask her before we say anything if she loves the new digital sofa that you had handmade. I'm kicking off. Let's introduce and invite and open the door to Dr. Zoe Williams.
Oh my goodness me,
Look
Dr.
at you
Zoe,
in
how exciting.
This sofa looks strangely like the inside of a car, don't you think?
That is weird. Phil, how did you design it around a Porsche? Did you do that? You just say, I want a cross between a Porsche and a Bentley, and there you go.
It's actually a Mini. but there's nothing mini about it. Look,
Is
very
it a
sporty.
mini? Is it?
It's a mini, mini
Is it a good?
Countryman, the big mini.
You and
Do you know
Phil.
what? You could have
Phil's
fooled
got a
me because
mini.
I was going to say I'm a mini owner, and you could have fooled me. I genuinely, I actually didn't know what the headset is because it was really irritating me because I sort of pride myself for being able to spot features in a car. I can't believe I didn't spot that was a mini. I'm really disgracing myself. But anyway, it's so great to have you with us. We don't care what the backdrop is.
Absolutely. Thank you
Great
so
to be
much.
here.
Do you know, it's so weird. Yesterday we did another show, Dr. Williams, and the other person had to broadcast from the car because he was so busy. It's fantastic. It's absolutely marvelous.
Actually, it's not so much. I'll be totally honest. It's the Wi-Fi kept dropping out at home, so I've come to the gym to use the little office space they have. But there was somebody in there being really loud, so I've resorted to the car. The things
I find, I know that you're a doctor and everything, but I find when that happens, if you're in a gym, just pick up a dumbbell and smack them with it, and then they're not so loud. Works for me.
It's a good. It's a
Think
good
about it. Don't have to rush to a decision. Now,
I think it's something more. I think it's more than that. I believe that the mini is actually a mini studio, and when you're just using it for outside broadcast for this morning and stuff like that, and you just don't want to say anything because it's showing off. But
do you know what the weirdest thing is? The picture and the sound quality is fantastic.
Well, there we
yes,
go.
Arguably better than Russ's, but then again, that's not difficult. But anyway, Dr. Say, it's very, very exciting to have you. So thank you for taking time to join us.
Could you just stop being rude, please? And can we
What?
talk to a very special? We've got a very special guest now. Big Day's out.
Yes. So there's a new initiative launching today from National Lotteries. It's the National Lottery Fund Days Out initiative, and anyone who buys a lottery ticket can get a £25 voucher essentially to visit hundreds of different attractions across the country.
Now, hang on a mo. Dr. Zoe. It's a little haiku there. I buy lottery tickets. I know, for God's sake, shut up.
I can only apologise. I'm so sorry.
I buy lottery tickets all the time. Put it down to desperate and eternally hopeful, right? I didn't realise you could get the vouchers.
It's just started, so they're working. They're working with Visit Britain, and they're hoping to encourage people now that it's safe to get out and about and enjoy a fun day out. And of course, the tourism industry, which the National Lottery supports hugely, has really struggled the last couple of years. So that money, it's huge amounts of money that the general public invest through the lottery tickets. So they're putting some of that back into tourism, but also every single person who buys a ticket can benefit from that £25 off.
I'm loving the fact that it does go back into tourism, because actually there is an importance behind it, because as some people who follow this program might know, I've actually just come back from a 2-week break. It wasn't where I was supposed to be going. I was supposed to be off to the Middle East, and sadly, because the country I was going to doesn't recognize the UK as a green list country at the moment, I couldn't go. As a result of it, I thought, well, to heck with this. I've taken the 2 weeks off of work. I'm going to stick to it. And I'm going to go to different parts of the UK that I've always been meaning to go to. And I did a little road tour, the UK, for 2 weeks. And it was fantastic. Even though, because I was so convinced myself I'd not be able to switch off. I'm in my home country. How am I going to enjoy myself? Honestly, do it. Staycationing, it's the new thing. I don't like the word, but it's not a bad thing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah,
it's very important.
There's so much in this country as well, and whether it is staying closer to home, whether it is getting further afield, whether looking to do things outdoors, do things indoors, whether to focus on, something that's exciting, like a theme park, or something where you get the opportunity to learn, or being outdoors. There's just so much.
I laugh just because I can only imagine Russ on a roller coaster.
No, Jesus, it's the world's my idea of hell. You know what? It's very important for your mental health, because Phil, joking aside, went away and came back so much better, having insulted everybody in the entire UK on his car tour, and making them loathe him almost internationally, but certainly countrywide. But it's so important, isn't it, Dr. Williams, to get out? You notice, you see, you got a doctor in front of your name. I am so impressed. So I have to say, Dr. Williams. No, come on.
Thank you. You're very welcome to call me Zoe, but you are also obviously welcome to call me Dr. Williams, whatever you choose. But yeah, you're absolutely right. People might be thinking, why is the doctor talking about fun days out?
Because it's important.
It is, and there are links to health in lots of different ways. I think the obvious thing is getting out for a day out. You're likely to do some physical activity. Of course, that's wonderful for your health. But also it's an opportunity to meet new people, which is something many of us haven't been able to do for a long time. Also spend good quality time with those that we do care about. There was a survey that went alongside this launch of this initiative where the great British public spoke about what they think is the best formula for a good day out. And the thing that came out on top was laughter. Laughter's great, but it's also good for your health. It releases loads of feel-good chemicals in the brain, can help with sleep, it can help with mood, as can being in nature and green spaces, as can being mindful as well.
100% nature and green spaces. That is, I don't want to sort of use mental health cliche because we try and avoid that on this station, but that is my happy place. If I am surrounded by greenery, by nature, there is something about going back to nature, and I don't mean in some sort of way, you know what I mean, fully clothed going back to nature. There is just something. There is just something about being surrounded by that sort of picturesque world that we live in.
Yeah.
That really helps just switch off and make everything seem okay.
And there's research into it as well. There's science, there's data that tells us that the art of forest bathing is the correct term for it. So just being immersed in nature helps reduce the level of cortisol, the stress hormone that's circulating in our body. It's something that the Japanese have made an art out of, and it's something that, you know, I think even as a doctor, as healthcare systems, we are looking at that research and promoting it more and more and more. And of course, if you can't make it out to a forest, then even just being in a park in an urban area, not taking your phone and just trying to switch off for 15 minutes or longer can actually start to reduce your stress levels.
And might I suggest as well, there's a reason why you don't see a yoga retreat at the South Mims service station on the M25 is because it's not terribly relaxing.
Exactly. But, you know, we have to recognise what helps people feel good. It's different for everybody. You know, for some people, it's going to like all these places that are available on this national lottery scheme. It might be going to Thorpe Park and being on a roller coaster. It might be going to the Eden Project in Cornwall. Actually,
that's gorgeous.
As the number one,
gorgeous there.
Kew Garden, Buckingham Palace, you know, but also, you know, places in Wales, in Ireland, in Scotland as well.
It's an amazing thing when I see pictures of, you know, when you look on social media and you see someone standing in some beautiful, you think that is, even looking at the photo, this sounds weird, Zoe, but even looking at the photo, you get a sense of, just for an instant, you get a bit of sense of calm, and it takes you out of your environment. And it is important. Don't take your phone when you're going to these places. You know, you don't have the nuclear codes on your phone. They don't need you that, you know, for a day, you can disappear. It's okay. The world will keep turning.
It's hard to do, though, isn't it? It is hard to do.
Of course, it's virtually impossible. I'm the worst.
But from a medical perspective, why is it hard to do? Are we actually addicted to technology?
I think we're creatures of habit, aren't we? And that, you know, I can't remember what the statistic is, but the number of times the typical person picks up and looks at their phone, even when they don't need to, just to see if anybody's WhatsApped them or see if they've got a new message on Instagram or a new like. And it's habitual. We've formed that habit now. And, you know, it takes quite a long time for a habit to become ingrained. But once it is ingrained, it's quite difficult to put it down. So it was just automatic.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I ask is because when you said just now, sorry, about did I find that when I was away? The truth is that it took a lot of effort, psychological effort, to stop checking my phone every 2 seconds, to stop thinking along the lines of, and this is what I was really worried about going away in this country, is because I thought, well, I wouldn't break that association. At least when you're abroad, you have, in many countries anyway, you have the knowledge of data roaming and data charges to kind of put a block on it to say, well, actually, hang on, if we do this, you're going to pay a fortune just to see whether or not you've been sent an email about a special offer of a company you've never heard of. So, I mean, that from my perspective, that sort of is quite an incentive not to do it. But in this country, it's difficult. But honestly, once I got into the swing of not checking my phone every 2 seconds and just, I don't know, maybe looking at emails once in the evening, if that, just in case there was anything urgent, it was bliss. It was wonderful. And social media as well. Off of social media. I mean, I posted photos on social media. Just
Can I go slightly off-piste here, Zoe? Phil's asked if we're addicted, and there's another twist on this. I know that's not why you're here, but I think it's really important from a medical viewpoint and a mental health viewpoint. that so many people seem to need and require validation virtually from strangers on social media. It's like, if you don't get so many likes, or if I don't get a retweet, or all of this nonsense, you don't feel. It's very worrying. It's a horrible development, I think. I'm sure when they invented all this nonsense, they never thought it through to that degree.
I think you're absolutely right. And there's a program, isn't there, I think it's on Netflix, where a lot of the industry leaders who started out in development of things like Instagram,
the social dilemma, it's called.
Yeah, we've referred to it often on this show.
That's the one. And they themselves, it was never the intention that these things could be so harmful. And what I found interesting is a lot of the people who feature in that film, they have a complete ban on their children being allowed to go on social media, because
they're the guys who created it.
Yeah,
they're the guys who created
it with good intentions, but who'd have thought a like was meant to make you feel good? They never considered the lack of a like could make people feel so bad. And I think it is a real issue for younger generations, isn't it? Because they're growing up in a world now where, for some people, they're basing their value on how many likes they receive. A friend of mine, actually, her daughter did really well at school and got really good exam results. So she took her to a shop and she bought her she offered to buy these really expensive trainers that she'd wanted for ages.
Okay.
She went in the shop, she tried them on. She said to her mum, "Will you take a picture of me in them?" And then she said, "Right, we're buying them then." She said, "No, I'll wait and see how many likes I get first."
Oh, no.
And
you see, one of the things we deal with a lot, and I know you're very busy, but is bullying, especially for girls. Guys, they kind of sort it out ish, but girls, young girls at school, bullying used to end at the school gates when I was a kid. Now it's 24/7. It can lead to terrible, terrible problems. And my kids don't go on social media at all. Don't go near it.
We've seen that heightened in lockdown as well. And I don't want to take this conversation.
No, I understand.
I don't want to get too deep and too dark, but we've definitely seen a surge in things like teenage suicide in the past 10 years.
Precisely. We had a dad on.
Let's actually bring it full circle. Oh, sorry, I know what you're. Sorry, you
we had a dad. We had one of our guests, Phil and I, was a dad whose daughter took her own life through social media bullying, and it was. It was a tough interview. Your heart was breaking here.
It's awful.
It's just shocking.
Yeah,
anyway, I suggest that
be kind message. It costs nothing to be kind. It makes you feel good to be kind. It's good for your health to be kind as well as other people. But it is the world we live in.
But to bring it full circle, though, to the reason why you hit that is kind of why it is so important to take these little trips away from everyday occurrences such as social media, work environment, whatever it may be, even school life. Let's be honest, just because you sit and not in the working world yet, it doesn't mean that you don't get stresses in that school environment as well. So whatever the background is of your day-to-day existence, I would say that that's kind of why it's just essential to step back from it once in a while.
Yeah, and I think, a fun day out kind of ties in with the NHS 5 ways to well-being, because it's about being active, it's about spending time with others, it's about being mindful. It also can be about giving as well. You can take somebody out with you on a day out, and because you can save £25 on your day out with this offer, then you could donate that to a local charity if you wanted to. You could use that as an opportunity to be kind and to give.
That was neatly segued in. Wow, that was really
did
all
right
good.
there,
Can I be a little? I did. It was fantastic. Can I be very, very cheeky and ask you this? And then I know I must let you go because you're very busy. But during all of this last 19 months of hell, how have you been? Because you're a doctor, you must have been under enormous pressure, taking a lot of flack and a huge demand on you. How has Dr. Zoe Williams been?
Oh, it's honestly, it's been a roller coaster. I think at the start, I had COVID right at the beginning of the pandemic. And then my media role, I was very, very busy, obviously, talking about it, to the point where I was absorbing information, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and making sure I was up to date because it was constantly changing. And actually, what I decided to do in the heat of the pandemic was step down a little bit from media broadcasting, and I went to work at the Nightingale Hospital in London because I felt
Oh, wow.
Down the
I was
Excel.
like reporting about the front line, and as
Yeah.
a GP at that point, we were doing everything over the phone or video calls. So I felt I wanted to make my contribution, and that was a really interesting experience. And then, you know, I'm on maternity leave at the moment. I had a baby 4 months ago. So this recent situation,
Congratulations.
Congrats.
thank you very much. Thank you. But the recent situation around GPs essentially being trolled, beaten up in the worst case scenarios,
Oh, God.
it's just devastating. It's heartbreaking
What's the
because
matter with people? I honestly think, a pal of mine, Ray Gelato, said, I think the world's had a collective nervous breakdown.
I think so.
And it's really weird. But, you know, you're the professional film. I just kind of asked around. But you talk to some people, you think, you are not well.
But do you know what? I do
Seriously not
understand.
well.
I do understand people's frustrations because at the moment I'm very much a user of NHS services, having had a baby, and it's frustrating, and I get that. But I think people are angry. I get it. Don't blame your GP. It's not their fault. You know, it's the system. We don't have enough GPs. General practice has been underfunded for years, and every GP out there, apart from me, because I'm on maternity leave, you know, we work 12-hour days. It's not unusual for a GP to put in it's not meant to be a 12-hour day, but we can't do all the work we're meant to do in a normal day. So, you know, if you are angry, if you are frustrated, fine, I get it. Take those out on the right people, not on your actual GP, please.
Dr. Zoe,
you've been rumbled. You know you've been rumbled, don't you? You've been rumbled. And I'll tell you why, Zoe. You're hiding from the baby. This is it. You just wanted some peace and quiet. And you're hiding in the car. And everyone in the house is going, where's mum?
No, he's not here.
Where's mum? Where's mum? Don't know. Can't find her. You're just hiding out, getting some me time. I don't blame you, quite frankly.
I have no idea.
Being in the car on your own when you've had a baby. Why?
I have no idea. I have no idea if this constitutes as impertinence. So forgive me if it does, but I hope not. You're looking frightfully fresh and sparky for someone who is supposedly on not very much sleep at the moment. So,
oh wow,
I'll
take
that. Are we allowed to say that, or do we get arrested? Do we get on the front page of the
Sun? I'm so sorry if that's impertinence. I hope not.
Oh no, I've loved this. I'm definitely come back on your show if you invite me again.
Please, yes. Right, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Let's quit while we're ahead.
We beat you,
Zoe. So lovely to see you.
Zoe, thank you
so much.
And you, thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
All right, and you. Bye.
Wow. Well, there you go. You can't. I hate to tell you, that's about the level that Russ has worked towards. This is how high quality today's show is going to be. What? Starting off with the amazing Dr. Zoe. What more could you possibly want?
Bless you. Thank you. Well, we're trying here. We're trying. We're giving it our best. Right. Let's whack through some. We've got amazing guests today.
Russell, can I ask a favour? Could I just dive off screen for 2 seconds?
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to clear the pipes.
You're doing a wee. I don't know what's the matter with him. Right. Let's go through. Kimi Lashmar. Kimi says, making memories is vital and quality time is essential. I don't know about the making memories. I'm not so fussed about that, but quality time. Guys, I can't tell you how important that is. It really, really is. You get burnt out. Speaking of getting burnt out, a mere husk of what he was, it's Sam Munro. Hello. I'm not going to do this. One day he's going to meet me again and he's just going to punch me straight in the face. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, double kiss. And happy Friday to you. Why the hell you came back from Cyprus, God only knows, because it looks sensational. When you see pictures and you think, there's actual blue skies in the rest of the world. We don't have to live under this grey gloom that is Britain. Drives me mad. I'll be honest, I don't know. Kimi Lashmar again. Hi, Kim. Funny how we all think this has to be a winning ticket. We were talking about because Zoe Williams was here about the lottery. And yes, there are some beautiful places in the UK. And if I won a fortune, I wouldn't leave the UK. Really? You wouldn't see my backside for dust. I'd be on the first private jet out of here. Yeah, I would. I know exactly what I'd do. Right, let's go back to Veronica Curran. Up in Edinburgh. Guys, Cuddy was a fab show. That's another of our stop it. That's another of our shows with Cuddy Cudworth. He came on as a guest and I was so bowled over by him. I thought he needed a series. He was terrific. He talked such sense. If you haven't seen Cuddy's show, it's really excellent. Really. I'm not just saying it. Cuddy's was a fab show. It'd be lovely for some of you to join the banter. Absolutely right, Veronica. Please do. I've been having a rough week. But the guys helped me deal with some issues, so I'm back on life today. Well, it's so much better than the alternative, you know? Know what I mean? Know what I mean, Jelly Bean? You cleared what you had to do?
Yeah, oh no, I was only trying to sort of euphemistically say I'm going to blow my nose, but anyway.
No, I know that. No, I turned it into the fact you had to go to the toilet. I think it's more real.
Which I didn't, but I thank you for highlighting.
I know you didn't, and he didn't even wash his hands. Fair.
I did.
No, I said that Sen. I'm not going to do the Greek Cypriot accent because one day he's just going to see me and he's just going to punch me in the face.
I can't understand why, because you're so good at that accent.
Thank you very much. Sen says, "No need. I'm
Alexander the Meerkat."
That is my voice. No need. I'm punching the screen. silly sod. He's punching the screen.
Speaking of which, actually, can I just say, speaking of Alexander the Meerkat, we're most certainly not sponsored by them, and I'm not here to advertise anyone. But I do have to say,
I would be happy to be sponsored by.
I know, I'm sure you would be.
If their marketing team's watching.
Well, they sponsor Corrie, so it's a good start. You know, they like to start off with the smaller programs that they sponsor. But I have to tell you that I got my renewal through from one insurance company for my car. And they were going to try and charge me 630 quid for it. No word of a lie. Okay, it's an almost squeaky clean record. Almost.
Yeah.
And well, I have to tell you, having done a little bit of comparison.
Yeah.
£315.
Yeah, it's about right. That's what you
literally half price. No, literally half the price.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. Wanted to put one of the twins on because he's driving all over the place in town, shopping and everything, you know, for food and all. They wanted an extra 700 quid. He's got an immaculate license. Yeah. I mean, disgusting.
I mean, it took me until at least the age of 30 when it was under £700. I do know that.
They are a bunch of con artists, and that's all there is to it. It's a con. It's an absolute con. You know, they shove the price. You do everything you can. They shove the prices up. And then when you need them,
well, I'd put it to you. It's the same kind of. It's sort of the same kind of premise, I suppose. And I'm not wholly against the BBC, but it's the same kind of premise as, say, the BBC license, in the sense
bloody cheek.
If you are told you have to pay something, well, then it's almost down to the individuals to determine the price. One has to pay car insurance. So, of course, you're going to get the car insurance providers trying to make the most of that. Why wouldn't they? If we were told you had to pay a subscription fee, you had to pay a subscription fee to Men's Radio, don't you think we'd try and rinse you dry?
No, you bloody idiot, because that's what I'm going to be trying to do.
Oh, okay. Dick. In that case, no, we won't. Jokes. Anyway, no, seriously, though, but this is the problem, is that when
How would you feel if we made this a subscription?
That was our last viewer turning off. Anyway, I think...
Why would they do that? I'm not talking about BBC's type subscription. I'm talking about a minor, tiny... We're a CIC company, which is a community interest company, community interest charity, not for profit. All right? And we rely on everybody else. Of course we do. We don't do advertising. And we do sponsorship, etc. So if we turn this into a subscription for people just to pay a tiny bit, would everybody run away and not have this anymore? Would they?
Who only knows?
I'd love to know. What is Sam Monroe saying here? He's saying, "Ooh, more money for whiskey and cigars."
I think he means off the back of the amount of money I saved for the insurance.
At least he's got his priorities right. What do we got?
Or the irony, though, is, of course, is once the insurance company finds out that that's what I'm spending the money on, they'll just bump the premium up anyway.
They are really. It sucks, and that's all there is to it. Kimmy Lashmar says, "But you think you think loyalty and good driving could count for something? They don't care. Let's get over this nonsense that banks and insurance companies give a good goddamn. They don't. They just want your money. They are not interested in you whatsoever. They have zero interest in you. You are just a client number. They don't care about you. They don't care what happens to you as long as they get their money. That's it. So this nonsense, when you see all these adverts where we're with you, with the banking, it makes me puke. It's what a load of bollocks. It's just rubbish.
You're about as with me as Prince Charles is. Do me a favour.
You don't care. Well, at least Prince Charles cares about things. He cares about essential things. But the banks don't. And it's all this nonsense like we're stupid and just landed from the planet stupid. And, oh, look, they care. Of course they don't bloody care. They don't give a damn about us, And in all of these instances with insurance and with the banks, right? This is about mental health. We're the client. We're the customer.
No, it's worse. We're the cash cow.
Give us the service.
Well, it's a nice thought, isn't it?
No, but Phil, we're not doing you a favor by giving. We're not. Who's doing the favor here? You're not doing us a favor by giving us an account at the bank or giving us an insurance policy. We're doing you the favor because
but you say that, but actually, I think that's quite a London-centric thing, because I've realised as I was travelling around the UK a couple of weeks back and went to different restaurants, say, and other bits, the customer service was totally different.
It's way nicer out of London.
Totally different.
Nicer. Completely.
For starters, anyone who conversed with me, I felt it was sincere. You know how you go to some shops and they say, "Hi, how are you doing today?" They don't care. They've been told to say it. They've been told to say that.
Hi, bananas, oranges, flashbulbs.
No, I know, but that you feel like they've been told to say that to you, and it couldn't be more often. It couldn't be more obvious. But there are some parts of the UK where you go to where genuinely people in the shops there are friendly. And it was a wake-up call. I just thought to myself,
and they've got the time, to actually chat.
And might I suggest as well, it was bizarre how it made me feel. Because if someone is rude to me in a shop, it puts me in a bad mood. It makes me feel bad. Period. It actually makes me feel very unpleasant. And yet, when you have someone who's nice to you, you walk out with a smile on your face, and it's a totally different feeling.
Absolutely right. When I had the stupidity to be in the music industry, worst decision I ever made, I was traveling all over the UK all the time, hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of miles a month. And it was stunning, the different areas of the UK, which goes back to what Dr. Zoe Williams was saying. When you go there, first of all, some of it, you are stunned by its beauty. Secondly, you realize, no, the UK is not London. And I'm a London born and bred, right? But it's not London. The UK is loads of other fabulous places, and the people are so different. They will give you the time. They're much more charming. They're much more
I have
friendly.
to tell you, there was something a little incident that happened this morning. That, again,
wasn't you and Julia?
It's one of those things that just... No, it's just one of those things that
went into the ladies' loo by mistake and she slapped you. No, I'm just
one of those things that makes you feel really unnecessarily bad. And I messaged quite innocently after asking a colleague of mine for a telephone number of somebody who I wanted to have on one of the programs I'm producing. I innocently text this person, say, "Hello, very much to get you on this show. Just would you be around on such and such date and time? Blah blah blah.
Fancy a drink sometime."
Anyway,
no, you didn't say that. That was me.
The response, I put "dear whoever,"
or
"hi actually whoever." This person responds, "Phil, I have said it once. I've said it 1,000 times since 2017. This person hasn't had number to this phone since then. How is this impossible for someone at your organization to delete this against your record?" And the further response was, "And I really mean it. I have said this so many times." Jeez. My response, "Not to me, you haven't.
Sod off.
Not to me, you haven't. Thank you for your help." And then the reply back to that, again, just delete the number from his contact. It's always a different person asking me. That's all. Thank you. And I replied
Bloody
saying,
hell, Philip.
I replied saying, I shall be sure to share your frustrations with the team. I hope your day improves. Literally, what else could you say to that? Seriously.
That is
but it made me feel so
wow. That
ugh.
is so aggressive, isn't it?
Totally,
That's
completely
so
and utterly aggressive. And for what? For what? I was innocently inviting somebody onto a program.
But
that's all I was doing.
Do you know what it is, Phil? Putting aside the wheres and the what fors of it was a radio show. You're inviting somebody. They went nuts. It is about mental health, because that, if you're not really careful, they can mess up your entire day. It's like an infection. It's like an infection. It's like they're in a shitty mood or whatever. They're angry. Who the hell knows why? And frankly, who cares at this point? No need to be rude to other people. We were just trying to do a job. And then it infects you, and then you feel rotten for the whole day. And it's a real trick not to be affected by other people's rudeness and unpleasantness.
I just think to myself,
it's very hard, it's not easy at all.
Well, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I am relatively thick-skinned. In the heat of the moment, something will affect me and I won't be very happy about it. But I am quite lucky in the sense that give me a few minutes later, I'm normally so busy that I just walk away from it and forget it. But there are, as you say, there are people who let it drag on and it festers. It really upsets people to quite a lengthy degree.
And there's nothing you can do, because it's like, when you're driving and somebody gives you the finger or yells a beaut for whatever reason, you can really let it affect you, or you think, they're never going to see you again. They've forgotten you 100 yards up the road. Why are you letting this idiot annoy you? And I just can't. I try it. Don't always succeed, but I try to just zone out. I'm not interested. I'll be listening to an audiobook, getting on with my world. I don't want to let their unpleasantness affect me or infect me. I love this. I'm going to put this back from Michael Verby in the southern Spain. He says, always say this about banks and insurance companies. At least Dick Turpin wore a mask. Which is really true. Let's say hello to everybody on Deluxe Radio. Hi, everybody there. There's something like last time we checked, 42,000 of you listening to this show. Holy moly. That sometimes peaks at 62,000. So thank you, everybody at Deluxe Radio, and our chum David Wimble and all the gang at Deluxe. Thank you for having us. Glad you like the nonsenses that Phil and I do, but hopefully you find it useful and instructive as well. We've got a packed show. We've got some amazing future guests coming up there. After the show, you're going to have to tell me who that was. Was it anybody I'd know, by the way?
No, honestly, you wouldn't. Because I don't actually even know who it was. That's the whole point. It's because I text a number in good faith, being told by a friend / colleague of mine.
An ex-girlfriend.
Well, no, but being a sort of this person's number, it actually turns out I believe it was a peer. Can I be honest with you? I'm sorry, I'm slightly distracted. I've just seen a news alert, which has really, sort of made me a bit gloomy. Sorry. Well, it's not great. It's not great. I don't know whether or not, sort of, if you follow politics, you may know the name James Brokenshire, who used to be the former housing secretary. And he took time out of politics because of illness, and it's just alerted to come up to say that he unfortunately didn't survive his battle, which is very sad. But anyway,
did you?
Anyway,
did you
sorry
interview
about
him? Did you?
No. I can't. I actually can't even say. No, I can't even say that I knew him, to be honest with you. But it's just when you sort of see the news alert come up that someone who you have actually sort of known through work, not necessarily personally.
That's what I mean.
But you see that name. I don't know, but I haven't interviewed him. But what I mean, I didn't even say I knew him. What I mean is I recognize his name and am familiar with his work because I follow quite rigorously news and politics. But just to sort of see the name flash up, James Brokenshire dies aged 53. It just makes you sick. No, it just makes you sick. Yeah, no, it just makes you sick. Anyway, sorry, I do apologize. I went off on a slight tangent there.
Speaking of which, let's pay just a tiny tribute to a great man, Johnny Gold. Johnny Gold passed away day before yesterday. He was the most charming man you could imagine. He co-founded the best nightclub that London's ever seen, called Tramp. Where back in the day when I had a life, we used to hang a bit. He was such a nice guy, such a lovely guy. And if you've read my book, The Gatekeeper, you will know that the hero of the book is called Nick Gold. and Nick Gold is in fact Johnny Gold's son. They're not the same as in the book, but I just thought it was a cool name, and it was my little tribute to Johnny Gold and the Gold family. It was just my little private joke. So our commiserations and condolences to the Gold family out in Los Angeles and London and all over the world. But he went in a way that if I've got to go, which of course I will, surrounded. He had the horse racing on the television. He was in bed, surrounded by all his family and loved ones, and he went peacefully. And if I've got to go, that'll suit me. Not horse racing. Probably a Kiss concert, or maybe Metallica concert or something like that with the family. And that's a lovely way to go. If you're going to go, that's a beautiful way to go. Nice man. Very, very nice man.
Oh,
everybody loved him. Yeah, there we go. Johnny Gold.
Yeah. No, it is sadly, as a wise person once said to me, that death is just part of life, and it never makes it easier though. So depending on relation of somebody, depending on how close you are, not close, or even if you just admire somebody, it's very grim to think that that's it, over for that particular person. It's just horrid.
I actually think, and this will be controversial, and I don't want to upset anybody. It's just my view. I'm not prescribing it, but I do think that's it. And I think we're so scared as a species to think you're here, you have a life, good, bad, or indifferent, rough, tough, nice, whatever it might be, and then you die, and that's it. Pretty pointless, really. So you might as well enjoy it. And that's why we created, you go here and you go there, or you're reincarnated. And now, if you believe that and it gives you comfort, all credit to you. That's lovely. I just think you're done. And it all makes it rather pointless, which is I always say, you might as well just enjoy yourself because it's a short ride. End of. That's it. It's not a dress rehearsal. It's the real thing. So, don't wait. Don't put things off. And that classic, the classic that I think our parents' generation did was, I'm keeping it for best. This is best. This is the best. There's no keeping it for best.
No, that's not what that expression means, man, for heaven's sakes. It just means it's not something you want to use and wear out every day, that's all.
Why?
What do you mean, why? If you've got a really expensive dinner service, you don't want the cleaners.
Use it. No, Phil. Do you know what, Phil? I totally disagree. Because why is
I was about to say something very inappropriate. I was going to say you don't want the cleaner eating a sandwich off, but you know what I mean? I realise.
Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Dave, broadcasting live from London. I don't know who the hell he is anymore.
You know what I mean. I'm very sorry. No, that's no offense. That's right, I promise you. But you know what I mean.
What does everybody think about this? All right, this is my point. People used to say, let's use your crockery example, right? Auntie Maud, or Uncle so and so, Uncle Fred's coming. We'll get the best crockery out. Why should he get the best crockery? Why shouldn't you enjoy it? Why shouldn't you enjoy it? That's the thing. It's there to be used. It's there to be enjoyed. And you should get the pleasure out of it. Not gathering dust in a cupboard and it comes out once a year. What's the point? I don't get it. I don't do that anymore. I try and grab every day. And because, me of all people have seen what happens when you don't. And, if I make myself something nice to eat or whatever, I get out my favorite plates and put it on it. That's fine. End of. I don't want it gathering dust in the cupboard. I want to use it. It's like people who have fabulous classic cars. There are those that drive them every day. They drive them as if it was a Ford Escort, and they don't care if it gets a little chip here or a little ding there. Not damaged. I'm talking about, like a stone chip or something like that, right? Because they want to enjoy that car. Or others who just leave it and never drive it.
My father used to do that with his last car, not the current one. But he'd waited so many years to be able to get a Jaguar. He'd literally worked his whole life.
He wants a Jaguar.
Up until the point of near retirement. He's hoping to retire within the next year. And he finally, a few years back, managed to finally sort of put down the deposits on a Jaguar.
Nice.
And he was so worried about racking up mileage, damaging it.
Yeah, this is
He
it.
hardly ever used it.
What's the point? Why have it then? Why bother?
So, luckily, he made up for it with the next car, but that one he just hardly
people are like,
used.
I can't use the car. I'm putting mileage. Well, it's your car. It's there. It's like a washing machine, really. I mean, I'm passionate about cars. I know that, but it's a utility. The great Charlie Watts, who I just think the Stones aren't the Stones without. I'm sorry, that's just me. I know, because he was always my favorite Rolling Stone, Charlie Watts. And he couldn't drive. He never had a driving license his entire life, but he loved cars. So he'd collect the most beautiful classic cars just to look at them. And he'd say in interviews, yeah, just go. And they said, but you can't drive. He said, oh, I know that. I like looking at them. I go in, I sit in them, I relax in them, but I don't drive them because I can't drive. I get that. Oh, now this is Michael Verby. Michael Verby's making me laugh. Like the polythene covers permanently used on the Jewish Renaissance chairs, never to be used. It's not just that. I had a doctor I used to go and see, and his wife was very particular, and all the furniture had this thick clear plastic covering. So in the winter it was absolutely freezing, and in the summer your arse was super glued to it because it was hot. You tried to get up, you had to sound as you stood up. I never got that. Is that the most unfriendly, inhospitable thing? Having thick, fitted plastic covers over your furniture.
I mean, let's put it this way: you didn't want to wear shorts.
Oh God, no! You'd never get up. You'd never blooming well get up with that. Speaking of people who keep their home magnificent, yeah, there we are. Francine Warner, the Queen of Mill Hill, the undisputed,
and emojis. And I found out also
I can never read
that Francine also.
Crap.
Well, I found out also that Francine also knows my neighbour, which I know it's a very small world.
Francine, my cousin knows everybody. She
Yeah.
knows everybody. Hey, right. Our next guest is in the fabulous digital green room, and I'm just looking at her. She's enjoying the digital, freshly brewed coffee. She's having the digitally brewed tea. She's never off TV. We're very, very thrilled to have her. It's a real doctor's day today. So without further ado, Dr. Sarah Jarvis. Hello.
Hi there. How are you?
How lovely to have you back on The Daily Show. Thank you so much for coming back. Marvelous.
Pleasure to be with you.
I know how busy you are, Dr. Jarvis. Now, flu jabs and the booster. Talk us through it, please, because I'm a big fan. I'm telling you that straight off.
Well, I'm really glad you pointed out that we're not just talking about flu jabs today. We are also talking about COVID vaccine boosters. So the reason for that is that both of these are going to be a threat this winter. Last winter, levels of flu were vanishingly low. That was not because flu has disappeared, believe me. It was because none of us were socializing with each other. And that is almost invariably the reason that flu levels are low. We had, of course, gone into restrictions by December, and by January we were in lockdown, which basically means that flu just didn't have the chance to socialize.
Because we weren't mixing.
Just like COVID does.
All right. Okay. You see, we get lulled into a false sense of security. This is what scares me. I'll be honest with you.
I didn't quite catch that.
I'm sorry. I said we get lulled into this false sense of security, and that's what really frightens me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we're not secure at all.
1 in 3 people in a recent survey are unaware that flu and COVID can circulate at the same time. Take it from me, they very much can. And if you're really unlucky, you can actually be infected with both at the same time.
Oh my God.
Very, very bad news. We did have in the first wave evidence from people who got both conditions at the same time, and that, funnily enough, they were much more likely to be severely unwell or even to die. But more than 1 in 4 people is unaware that flu can be fatal, which I find absolutely extraordinary. Given
but
that
why?
11,000 people
living on the international
year.
Where are they? Living on Pluto? How do they not know this?
It's a very good question. I wish I knew how they didn't know this, but they don't know this, it would appear. So over half of people in this same survey underestimated the number of people who die. And of course, if you have 11,000 people die, you're going to have an awful lot more ending up in hospital, which is why we've got these two campaigns, these two programs being rolled out at the same time. The NHS is delivering COVID booster jabs to people in eligible groups, anybody over the age of 50, and anybody who's in a clinically vulnerable, clinically extremely vulnerable group, frontline health and social care workers, and people whose immune systems are suppressed. So all of those will be offered a booster from 6 months after the time that they had the second dose of their vaccine. You will be contacted when it's your turn.
Who's going to contact us? Our local practice, or
so you might be contacted by your local practice or group of practices, because of course practices came together to offer it. You may be contacted via the NHS to go online and book via the central website. You could get both, which is what happened to me just a few days ago. I was invited by the local practice. I went in, had my vaccine, and 2 days later, actually, I got invited by the NHS. But they do say, if you've already had your vaccine, don't worry about it. But where flu is concerned, we are going to be inviting people in through individual local practices, just as we do every year. The difference this year is that the flu vaccination program is bigger than ever. Like last year, it's been expanded to include not just over 65s, but everybody over 50. It's all people who are in at-risk groups. So whether it's chronic heart, lung, liver, kidney, chest, neurological diseases, diabetes, anyone aged 6 months to 50 who has certain health conditions, pregnant women, children aged 2 to 3, and primary school children have been invited for years. But this year, it's also being expanded to secondary school children aged in years 7 to 11. And in addition, anyone who's living in residential care, any carers, main carers of someone who's old or disabled and who may become unwell if they pass it on, and anyone who's living with someone whose immune system is suppressed. All of those are going to be invited. And if you haven't been invited already and you fall into one of those groups, you can either contact your practice or you can contact a local pharmacy, because lots of local pharmacies are already also rolling the vaccine out, the flu vaccine.
Pharmacies are great. I think pharmacies are the unsung hero. No disrespect to you, to the doctors.
You will get no argument from me. They are
Thank
fabulous.
you, because we just had Dr. Zoe Williams on just before you, and doctors are wonderful, and you do a fabulous job. But pharmacists, I go in and I say this, and they always know, and they've got a little bit more time. A little bit more time than you guys have. Let's break this down a little bit. I just want to say we had our flu jab weeks ago now. We had it, boom, like first in the queue. And when the booster comes for the COVID jab, boom, I want to be front of the queue. It'll be like a sale at Harrods. I'll be sleeping outside in a sleeping bag, ready to I embrace all this, because I'm not going to take any chances here.
Now, worth pointing out that some people are being offered both at the same time. Not everybody, but some people. But what I would say, if you are offered both at the same time, it has now been tested very thoroughly in research. It's perfectly safe to have both at the same time. If, however, you're not offered both at the same time, please don't put off getting one vaccine until you get the other. And please, if you've had one and the invitation comes through for the other one afterwards, please take it up. Both of them, the COVID and the flu vaccines.
What would you say to the people who say, well, I'm not having it?
Well, unfortunately, there are still a few of them around. There are actually very few in the UK. In fact, over 90% of people over 16 have had at least one dose of COVID. I do get people every year. I've been a GP for 31 years. This is your cue to tell me that I couldn't possibly be old enough. But
not
I'm afraid
possible unless you were Doogie Howser and you were a
Absolutely.
GP at 10.
I qualified when I was 3. That's what I always say. Very good.
Fantastic.
Bit slow.
Thank you very much. Thank
forgiven.
you. I just want to let you down.
But I've been telling people, for 31 years, I get the same arguments time and time again. Oh, the flu vaccine gave me flu. It is impossible for the flu vaccine to give you flu, because the injection contains no live virus. Infections only happen when a virus multiplies inside your body. There are some side effects, of course. All adult flu vaccines are given by injection into a muscle in the upper arm, but most of those side effects are mild, and it's basically about your body building up immunity. So don't worry about that. A slightly raised temperature, muscle aches, a sore arm, these will usually settle within a day or two. We do get other people who say, oh no, I was ill, I had the sniffles, I had a sore throat, whatever. Actually, don't forget, we're giving the flu vaccine at exactly the same time that all the regular winter coughs and colds are starting to circulate. So it's usually because of that. If you're pregnant, please do note there is no evidence of any risk to your baby. And in fact, given that if you're pregnant, you're much more likely to become severely unwell if you get flu, then in fact you're protecting your baby by having the vaccine when you're pregnant.
You see, this is where I get really very, very cross, Dr. Jarvis, because there you are. You've been a medical practitioner for 31 years. You know your stuff. But Doreen, the hairdresser from Stoke-on-Trent, who once watched an episode of Marcus Welby in the 1980s, is suddenly, never mind Dr. Jarvis and her 31 years of expertise, she's a hairdresser, but she knows.
Oh, I know. Well, of course, we get a little bit of this every year, but with the flu vaccine. But yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. It is extraordinary how busy Twitter and TikTok have been producing graduates. We have PhDs from the world, from the University of TikTok.
Of course.
And it is extraordinary because, you know, the comment that I make to them is, okay, so why exactly, as a doctor, would I be saying, what's in it for me?
Yes. What do you think? You see, and then when they don't have any argument, they go, "Oh, but you can't trust the doctors. They're in the pocket of the big pharma." And you go, "They're not all. They're not. This is the
really
logic of a lunatic. This is ridiculous."
Don't.
I'm sorry, I do get very passionate about it.
But of course, the point I make is, you know, the other point that I make is, so you know, Doreen down the coat or the bloke you saw on TikTok is suddenly an expert. Well, I'm just going to ask you a question. When you next go on holiday, because things are gradually opening up, do let me know. You have a choice between two pilots to fly you. One of them has gone through pilot school. They have clocked up 150 hours. They've gone through all the exams. They've had their eyes checked. They've had their heart checked. They've been proven to be in good health and fit to fly you. The other person did a 2-day course on the through TikTok. Which one are you going to fly with?
It's a tough question. I'd like a little time to think about it because I don't want to give the wrong answer. You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
It's a nonsense, isn't it?
Should we be brace? I know you're horribly busy today, so let me know when you got to go. But should we be? I know we've got to be careful, and I'm still saying no to a lot of invitations. I've got a thing about being indoors. People they get upset, but that's their problem. It's not my problem. That's the way that I look at it. Should we be bracing ourselves for winter? I'm not trying to be alarmist. I'm just trying to be a realist.
Well, I think the answer is that we very much should be being careful. So, for instance, you know, if you can have ventilation, even if it's a relatively small amount, I'm not asking you to, you know, go and stand in an Arctic wind, but if you can keep, you know, just cracks enough to get some ventilation out, if you can reduce the number of people that you have around at any time, if you can continue to practice really good hand hygiene, if you can, for instance, I do very much wear a face covering whenever I'm in an indoor setting where I cannot socially distance. And I would recommend that everybody continues to do that.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I go into a shop, on comes the mask. Not everybody else, not necessarily the shopkeeper, but I'm thinking, at least give myself a fighting chance here. What about the, I use the bus and the tube quite a bit because I'm in London, so, you know, driving's a nightmare. I double mask. I'll be honest, I wear one disposable, then I wear another one.
Well, interestingly, of course, one of the things to bear in mind is that unfortunately, face coverings don't offer you a lot of protection. What they do is to protect the people around you. So, of course, so if everybody's wearing face coverings, you really need to avoid people who aren't wearing face coverings.
But how do we, in all seriousness, though, when you're on the tube, now the tube was empty. And now everyone's saying, "Oh, sod it, we're hey, it's all party time," and it's getting pretty busy. It's getting pretty busy. What's the best advice? I really don't know what to do.
Well,
seriously.
I would suggest that, you know, if you can, you travel outside peak hours, because my personal feeling is that we should never all have gone back to working to encouraging everybody to go back to work. I think if more people work from home where they could, there's very good evidence during the pandemic that people work every bit as hard from home as they do when they're in the office. But, you know, if you can talk to your boss, for instance, about staggering your work time so you can come in and leave when it's slightly less busy, I think that would do all of us a favor.
That's so interesting. Now, the COVID, if I've got time, the COVID, COVID boost, definitely go get it.
Absolutely. Right. When you are invited for your COVID booster, please take up the appointment. When you are invited for your flu vaccine, please take up the appointment. And if by any chance you haven't yet been invited for your flu vaccine, you're not sure if you're eligible, you can go on to nhs.uk/flu vaccine, and that will tell you for certain. It'll remind you about all those groups that I mentioned. And don't forget that it's flu jab, not flu vaccine. But please don't forget that your local pharmacy, if you're in doubt, will be delighted to let you know if you're eligible, and they can provide you with the vaccine. Or if you've been invited by your practice, please do attend.
There's so much more I want to talk to you, but I know I've got to let you go, which is killing me because there's stuff that I know I'm going to get yelled at. Why didn't I ask? But I couldn't because I know you've got to go. Dr. Sarah Jarvis,
pleasure.
Thank you so much. Always great to see you. Thanks for coming on to Men's Radio. Really appreciate it.
Lovely
Have
to
a
talk
good
to you.
day. Bye-bye. Isn't she great? Great. There's so much stuff I want.
Dr. Sarah Jarvis was responsible for, without a doubt, the most superb explanation of why, when the vaccination was being rolled out, I won't forget this. Okay, this seriously, it stuck with me, and it's actually sort of stuff I've used in countering arguments with people.
All right.
We asked her the last time she was on the show, what about the risk the vaccination poses compared to other vaccinations that have been tested over a 10-year span?
Yeah.
How do we know what the long-term impacts
of
the COVID jab is? Her words were brilliant. She said there is almost certainly no other possible outcomes that there could be from this vaccination because so many people in the world have had it. Most people react to a vaccination within the first few weeks of having it. Okay? That's why you have to give it about 3 weeks to have efficacy. But most people react to vaccinations within the first 3 weeks. The reason why other vaccinations have shown reactions over a span of, say, 10 years is because most other vaccinations are not as concentrated. You're not putting them into the arm of virtually every single human being on the planet. What you're doing is you're putting them into the arm of a select few who are affected by that condition. And that's why she said it's as good as having tested it over a 10-year span. The number of people who have had the injection. Long-term effects is a bit of a misnomer because it's not long-term. If you're going to react to it, you're probably going to react to it straight away, which is sadly why there are some people I've actually heard of who've suffered hearing problems since having the jab. There are some people who've had this blood clotting problem. Some people who've had, other memory loss, memory fog, or whatever it is. All sorts of reactions have happened, but a very select few have. And that's why she said, that's why it's as good as over a 10-year period, pretty much. And I thought that was the most amazing counter-argument I'd ever heard out of all of the time that people had said that. Breaking
showbiz news, Andrea Lucas. Morning, gents. Only just back from hearing test and shopping. We're getting news that Andrea Lucas is back from shopping. We've got no further update on that story. We'll bring it to you as soon as we have. Now,
although I do have to say, it was quite extraordinary when she got to the checkout and she's paying for her shopping. She said, how much?
I knew we couldn't get through that without a gag. Now, one of the things I wanted to speak to Dr. Jarvis, but the reason I have to let these people go, just to explain, is they are rushing for a whole media day. So they will have their day broken up into 15-minute sections. I had that once when John Inman died. They said, oh, would you pay tribute on radio? Because you'd worked with him. Bit random, but okay. I mean, not like I was in Are You Being Served or anything. So I did 32 radio interviews. I just sat in a room, did 32 radio interviews. And of course, you've got to make each one sound fresh and like you're the only person, they're the only person you've spoken to that day. By the end of the day, I was a basket case. One of the things I wanted to ask Dr. Jarvis was this. So that's why we have to let them go and can't continue the conversation. The COVID affects some of the symptoms would appear to be mutating. And this isn't social media nonsense. This is what we're hearing. And we all know what we think the COVID effects are. But by this slight, I'm going to call it a mutation or just a change, if you like, it appears that it's a very heavy cold. But it's not a cold. It's actually COVID. And which is not, don't panic because you're going to get a cold. You know, it's Britain. The weather's crap. Everyone gets a cold. But this heavy cold, and people go, this is a bit much for a cold. It's not a cold. It's the new manifestations in some cases of COVID. And people should really be aware of that. A, to take extra care of themselves, but B, please, if you think there's the slightest chance, don't go wandering out, sit on the central line tube, you know, sneezing and infecting everybody, because
people don't care at all. Seriously.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid saying that. They don't give a monkeys, do they?
But they don't. I'm really sorry to say it. The truth is that this is the world in which we live in. Nothing is going to stop people doing what they want to do and living their lives. Other people come well and truly second. It's gone. You don't have the days anymore when people are considerate towards others, and it's appalling. It's so annoying.
But when you were traveling, getting back to your Pickwick Papers, your Pilgrim's Progress, did you find that other people were a bit more charming, had a bit more time for you?
Yes, in some places, absolutely, they did.
I mean, not everywhere. Please don't think there's a magic foofle dust the moment you leave London. Everything's great. There's other cities in the UK. Absolutely, I can't stand. And believe me, I have travelled extensively. Absolutely can't bear it. And you think, I can't wait to get out of this town. It's horrible. And the people are ghastly. And then you go like 50 miles up the road and everything's fine again. Interesting. Right. Ramsey's arrived. Ramsey Wymer-Salem. Afternoon, chaps. Just tuned in. Caught the end of Dr. Jarvis. She was very autumnal. Ramsey, you speak in riddles. Speaks a lot of sense, doesn't she? She's terrific. Darwinism will take care of this. You see, the trouble with this argument, and I get where you're coming from. Let me just read it. Darwinism will take care of the stupid people who don't want to take the vaccine over time. The stupid people, Ramsey, the flaw with that argument, you know, if you're that stupid and you're going to die, I haven't got a lot of sympathy. I know that sounds cruel, but I don't. You know, it's like playing with a loaded gun. Something's going to go horribly wrong. But the same thing when you're playing with a loaded gun, you could shoot an innocent bystander. The people who won't look after themselves and who spread it are putting me, Phil, you, Veronica Curran, everybody at risk. That's why Darwinism kind of doesn't work. We're not going to eradicate stupid people. All they're going to do is eradicate everybody. That's where the argument falls down. You see what I'm saying? Do you agree, Philip?
No, totally. This is the problem. Unfortunately, it's inbred. I don't actually sort of see a way around this now because behavior is learned, isn't it? And if successive generations now are just going to know this way, well, then how can it ever change?
You know, thank God the Digital Green Room, under your beautiful interior design inspiration, was refitted because it's been so busy today. We're sending out for more freshly brewed coffee. I have to say the champagne's been taking quite a big hit, although your sandwich selection, Phil, that you put on the buffet table has been very popular today.
Well, it's amazing how Digital Heinz sandwich spread, how popular it is.
I hate to say this. When I was a kid, I loved sandwich spread. Bloody marvellous.
Gracious,
No,
it's
you
like
don't
something
like
the cat cocked up. Don't be ridiculous.
Shut up. Right,
Out
not
loud.
one. I told you it was a packed show. I think I may have overdone it. I think I may have overdone it a tad today. He disappeared again. I've never known anybody. Shut up. I've never known anybody eat so much during a 3-hour show. Not one,
This is
but
not
two guests.
eat. Excuse me.
You
I just don't want to get in the way.
First time he's ever said that. Goodbye. Let's welcome, please, not one but two, James Hayhurst and Angharad Rudkin. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
How am I? Irrelevant. I'm fine. Thank you very much. As I say to everybody, they say, "How are you?" I go, "Well, I'm still here." And quite frankly, after the last 19 months, I could ask for no more than that. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. I really, really appreciate it. It's been a busy old day today. It's been marvelous. Everybody coming in. It's great. Now, tell us about yourselves. I'm going to start with Ankared. Am I pronouncing it right? I'm doing my best here.
You're pronouncing it brilliantly, Russ.
Oh,
absolutely.
God, God, it's so embarrassing when you do it wrong and then you think, I feel like an idiot. Right. So, what's this all about?
What's this all about? Well, if I tell you
what's
what
life
I
about?
do, and then I'll hand over to James to tell you about the parent promise. So I'm a clinical psychologist and I work with children and families, and I work with families who have, difficulties across the board. But what has been particularly an interesting area to be working with recently has been parents who are going through a divorce and the impact it has on the children. And I am very keen for us to really be able to bear in mind children's needs when their parents are separating, because in the absolute whirlwind of emotions, as well as all the practical changes that happen during a divorce, these poor kids can be left a little bit at the wayside, and their needs. And what we know from research is that actually the impact of growing up in a family where there has been a divorce can have major long-term impact. So we're talking about conflict, seeing a lot of conflict, but we're also talking about absence, so losing touch with one of your parents after a divorce. That these it can change the way you think about yourself, the way you feel, the way you act then, but also like in 10 years' time and in 20 years' time.
So they can be lifelong. There could be lifelong ramifications if this isn't handled correctly at the point of the divorce or the separation.
Absolutely. Wow. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very rough. I think the worst thing is, and then we bring James in, but I think the worst thing is, divorce is they will say, it was very amicable. It's never that amicable. Let's be honest. That's why you're getting divorced, right? But when you use kids as hostages, that's like the worst. That's
absolutely
so unfair, or you're using them as spies. It's horrible.
And I think all of us
on little kids,
Oh, completely. And all of us, when we're happily married and things are ticking along nicely, we'd go, oh my God, I'd never do that. Oh, who would do that? Yeah. And you then find yourself in the midst of a divorce setting. And I'm afraid it can bring out the worst in most of us. And we become the people who do maybe put our kids in positions that we would never have dreamt of before, because we are so up to here with our emotions and trying to figure it all out. We almost can't. We don't have the space to figure out what our kids need. And this is where the parent promise comes in. It gets you to think about all of this before you're in the situation where you start divorcing.
So, James, the parent promise, this was your brainchild? Yes.
It was a number of people's brainchild. But yeah, and thank you for having us back.
It's a pleasure.
To discuss.
It's a very important. It's a hugely important subject, because all of our listeners, if not only are they parents, but they're grandparents, and sometimes they see their kids getting divorced, and you're standing on the sideline as a grandparent, and it's brutal, and it's so it's terribly relevant for all age groups.
Yeah, so it was there's a group called the Positive Parenting Alliance that we've kind of got together, lots of different organisations, Place to Be, probably one of the most famous children's mental health charities, kind of amongst many others. And the issue, as you said, is a big one that society doesn't really talk about, and often, as Anharad was saying, it's people don't mean to damage their children, but they do get damaged. And often the systems within society, like, the family courts, actually can make things worse. They certainly don't make things better. So we wanted to launch an idea that helped educate parents or would-be parents that if they are going to separate, and of course, I mean, this is the thing, is that nobody thinks they will, but the stats say that, pretty much 40%, half of marriages or partnerships will end in separation, that we should talk about that up front when things are good, and just almost agree, like you would with a prenup or a will, in the best interest of the children, that the children will be kept out of it in a sense. And the promise, which I'm sure you'll put in the show notes, is just 3 really simple pledges that parents make around ensuring that whatever happens, the children will see both parents and their wider families, that they will always be respectful and nice to each other, the parents, that and that they will work together and to create the conditions for them to thrive. And obviously that means financial support, but it also means talking.
I'm in a meeting, Angered. I can't take the call.
So sorry. How unprofessional.
So unprofessional.
Oh, wow.
Unbelievable, James. She's letting you down.
Shocking. Where did you get them
She's letting you down. It was going so well. Try and
I'll get the staff these days, can you?
Try and continue, James. I'm there for you, man. Come on.
So yeah, basically, a hopefully disarmingly simple idea that few people can argue with. That we want parents to discuss. So when we launched the promise in May of this year, we did a survey, and one of our launch stats where we discovered that about 95% of people or parents had thought about what they'd done if they won the lottery, but less than 5% had ever talked about what might happen if they separate. So there's this massive.
You probably think you're cursing it, don't you? Because
if
you don't mention it, might be saying, "Hey, let's have a chat. What happens if we? You see, how do you have that casual conversation? Go, you know what, darling? What would we do with the kids if we got divorced? Why, are you thinking of getting divorced? No, it hasn't occurred to me. Why did you suddenly bring it up? And you're going to have all of that. I can see that a mile off. That is not the chat you want to have over your tandoori chicken and a bottle of something cheeky, is it? It's not what you want.
Yeah, and exactly. I suppose that's why we created this. And the ask was to have the conversation. In theory, it should be that it'll never happen. And of course, all you're saying is if it did happen, we'd make sure we both saw lots of the kids and we work together. And it's just having that conversation, or even not having it, but knowing that there's an idea around it, will just make it a bit more.
Anchor had put her finger on it, because you'll think it's never going to happen. It's not going to. It's great, and then suddenly, boom, it happens. So when everything's in the garden's rosy and lovely, everything's fine. But then, of course, all bets are off. So how do you then say, but James, I remember when we discussed this, and here's your 3 promises to me, and you can shove those 3 promises where the sun don't shine, because I hate you now. This is real life, isn't it? It's where it gets unpleasant.
Yes, and this is where we get to the psychology of humans, in terms of, when we are in the eye of the storm, our rational thinking goes, our ability to empathize is hugely diminished. And when we're a stressed system, it's basically, I can deal with, literally what is in front of my face and then nothing else.
Precisely.
So the idea of this pledge is that by having, purely the action of having agreed it and the memory of that conversation, whether it was 3 years ago or 30 years ago, that there is something that just nudges enough in your brain to make you think, okay, hold on, I remember that. And I remember how I felt when I made that pledge. And I remember how much I loved this person. And I remember how hopeful and what dreams we had. And even though that's all been smashed to smithereens,
I'm going to honor the boulevard of broken dreams.
That's it. That actually, if it gives you 1% more chance of
I'm with you. Now, where are we going to bring on? I'm going around the bend here. Forgive me, but thank God you're both professionals. Liz, because I can see Liz sitting in the digital green room. I'm going. Are you there? I'm going to bring in Liz. I don't know if she's part of this conversation. Possibly not. It's live radio. Let's go with it. Hello, Liz.
Hello there. Hi.
I'm all right. Do you know these 2 marvelous people?
I know James. Well, I know James a little bit. I've met James before. I haven't met Angered before, but great. Hi everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hi Liz.
It's exciting, isn't it? I've no idea what's going on. What the hell? It's my show. Right. So Liz, you're here because.
So Liz, I'll just try to give Liz a quick intro.
Please do, because I'm drowning here, fella.
That's totally fine. And I don't know if is Jamie joining as well.
So Jamie is having a little problem with the link. I don't know whether Jamie, you could forward it to him again. I have tried, but it was kind of lost in a thread. So maybe you could do that. And then
yes. Well,
so we were keen as part of the Parents' Promise that the people firstly start to understand that if you don't separate well, it can be damaging.
Yeah.
So that's part of kind of why Unharrod's here.
Yep.
But then we really wanted to find examples. It does happen when couples separate, and they separate really well. And the idea we wanted is for people to start to really applaud and praise those people, because it's difficult, but it's really, they've done a really good thing for their kids. So
Yeah.
Liz is here as a real life example of someone who's done it well.
Yeah, actually, Jamie's is on as well now, Russ. So he's just waiting in the wings, I think.
I would if he turned up, but trust me, he's not there. Promise you.
Oh,
he's really not.
He said he is, but there you go.
Well, he ain't.
Never mind. Sorry.
Believe me, because I can see I've got a different screen to you. So
Oh, right, okay.
don't get this on the BBC, do you? Right. So, Liz, tell us your story.
So Jamie and I, we got married in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 children who are now 15 and 13.
Blimey, you're looking good. Am I allowed to say that?
Thanks.
Can I say that these days?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
You're ludicrously
Anyway,
young.
it's fine. I'll take
your
it.
kids are 15. Anyway, there we go. All right.
That's fine. So, yeah, we were married for 7 years, and then we separated for several months, and then subsequently we got divorced.
Right.
And basically, I think the reason James contacted me is because a friend of mine put me forward as somebody who managed to have a relationship with their ex, which is kind of so good that it's quite maybe a little bit unusual. And obviously they chose us as being my friend chose me as being a good example of how to get divorced well. And yeah, I think we did. I think we got divorced, and we made a kind of subconscious commitment to really focus on the well-being of our children. We didn't have obviously any structure in place. There wasn't the Parents' Promise, or there wasn't any guidelines to help us to do this, but we just basically worked together, and still do, to make sure that our children were not at all, hopefully, affected negatively by our divorce. And I mean, they were very young at the time. They were only 4 and 2. So it didn't come without its problems. Obviously, we both had a lot of guilt and a lot of worry about them, and obviously still do, because I don't suppose you ever stop worrying about that.
Never.
But we have really
Never.
tried. And it works really well for us. We're so lucky because we made, we've done things like every year we have days out, which is just us, which is Jamie,
What,
myself.
you and your ex and the kids?
Yeah. And we both now have new partners. I have a husband, He has a wife. We've both got another child each. And so the other thing that we do is we get together often with all of us and the new children for birthdays, Christmases. We get together with our extended families as well, because we've all stayed in contact. And yeah, it's just been really, really good that it's worked out so well.
Have the kids, I'm going to be cheeky, but there you go, Liz, you bear with it. Do you think the kids understand, even on a subliminal level, the amount of effort that it took to create this ambience?
I think it's a good question. I don't actually know. I mean, so over the years, I've told the children bits and pieces about reasons we got divorced, and
did they ask you, or did you suddenly volunteer?
I just volunteered.
Get...
No, they didn't ask me. Sorry, they didn't ask me. No, I just have this kind of, what I do is at moments which I feel are appropriate, like a family meal, or we might be out for a walk, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I choose to offer them snippets of information, which I think that they take on board, rather than the big kind of sit down serious, session of this is what's happened. And in answer to your question, I don't know whether they fully appreciate how it hasn't been difficult. I don't know whether they appreciate the effort that's gone into it, because I think they just see it as being, that's their life, that's the situation that they have, and it's very natural, because they've never seen their dad and I argue. They've never seen us have any issues. All they ever see is us getting on and having a good time together.
Can I flip this round? And I'm going to pose this to Ankared. One of the things which people don't talk about is when the relationship, whether it's your partner, whether it's your husband or wife, whatever it might be, has turned toxic, and it's going into free fall and all the rest of the nasty things that we know that happens. My own view, I'm not an expert like you guys, but my own view is it's worse for the kids to stay together. For that ghastly phrase, we're together for the children. I think that's the kiss of death. I really do. Because growing up in a home where the relationship's horrible, I think that has a worse effect than, starting a new life. Personally, that's just my opinion.
It ties in with what research says, that levels of conflict experienced by children is the kind of killer in a way. That if they have years of growing up with parents who argue a lot, where there may well be violence between them, then actually that is incredibly damaging for the child. But we also, I've worked with young adults whose parents stayed together until they went off to uni, for example. And as soon as they were at uni, the parents separated. And the parents were trying to do the right thing. They were trying to kind of keep a family life going for their children. But these 18, 19-year-olds, when I've worked with them, are heartbroken, because it's kind of made them believe that their family life was all a fallacy. It was just some sort of fake version of family life.
It was just fiction.
Exactly.
Do you know what? I'd never thought of that. No one's ever. That's such an excellent point, Ankared, because I don't think that's ever been explained before.
No,
kids are not stupid. Kids are not stupid. The great myth is that they won't know. They know. They inherently know. It's like dogs know when you're not well. Dogs suddenly snuggle up to you. How do they know? They just know.
They just know. And kids really do take in an awful lot.
Back on all their lives and think, well, that was just a pile of crap. That was never true. Horrible.
Yeah. So it's difficult. So, growing up with huge amounts of conflict has a big impact, but growing up in a sort of quiet, seething dissatisfaction also has a great big impact. So, we're not living in a world of perfection, but what we need to do is figure out what is best for the children. And what the research shows is that just sticking together as a team, even if you're not living in the same place, you don't love each other anymore, you've got different families, that you are a parenting team for that child or those children, that is the absolutely most important thing, and the most effective thing.
My view is they didn't ask. This is such an old cliche, but they didn't ask to be born. You decided to have kids. And it's your responsibility, therefore. They didn't ask to turn up. You wanted them. So it's your responsibility to make sure they're okay. I don't think it's much more complicated than that.
And in the good times, it is as simple as that. But I think what happens is when we get into incredibly sort of stressful, difficult, emotional situations, that simplicity is hard to keep hold of. Instead, it's all about survival and getting what you think you deserve and not letting somebody get away with it. And all these sorts of thoughts bubble in, which then leave our kids, victims of it.
Here's an interesting comment, guys. See what you think about this. This is from Linda Dave, who's bizarrely Phil's mum. My parents got divorced when I was 8 years old, but they separated when I was 6. Didn't really affect me at all. And then it affected me terribly when I was about 20.
Yes.
Isn't that strange? And it still affects us.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is when you can sort of, your kids do get on with it. That doesn't mean they're not affected, but they do tend to just, bumble along from day to day. But what happens is when you leave home, or you find that you fall in love, or you start thinking about your own marriage, or you start having to look after yourself, all of these little milestones in life, it can come crashing in at that point when you think, actually, I thought I was okay. And that's why we need to acknowledge it at the very beginning when it's actually happening. We need to check in with our kids. They need to have access to information, support all along, so that they can process it as they're going along.
Liz, what did you say to your then husband? What sort of conversations, if you don't mind me asking? I mean, I'm not trying to be intrusive, but how did you phrase it? Because I think that would be helpful for other people who are going through this, and you've done it successfully.
Yeah, I think we just, every time we spoke, we talked about the children and about how important they were to us, and how it definitely wasn't going to affect them, because, like I said, we felt guilty about getting divorced, and who knows how that will affect them in the future. Obviously at the moment it seems great, but it might not be great for them forever. And it was just the conversations we had were always about how we weren't going to let the children be affected, and I suppose more making plans for them, as well as talking about not letting it affect them. We talked about the things that we were going to do, which were going to be positive for them, like going to Legoland for the day, or going,
Taking out a second mortgage first.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Boy, Legoland. Wow, that brings back memories.
And I think it was about making plans to do things together, always looking forward to the next event, the next arrangement where we would share time together with them. And we had just a really easy communication in terms of their school events and sporting events, and we've always gone to those together, and also now with our other new husband and wives. So I think it was about always being positive with each other, and having a really good communication about that. We didn't feel we didn't have any animosity.
You forget things like school events, because for them, of course, they're with all their schoolmates, and then mum and dad turn up. Mum and dad aren't together, and the tension can be absolutely huge and unpleasant. And you don't want that. It's their day. It's their day.
Yeah, so we've always gone together to those things, pretty much all of them, with unless we can't make it for a reason. And now they have Jamie and me and their two step parents with them as well, and their half siblings as well, to always support them.
They all get on? Do the kids all get on?
Oh yeah, brilliantly. So the two little ones. So Jamie has a younger one than me, who's nearly 5, and he's a boy, and I have another daughter who's 8, and they kind of think of each other as not siblings, but like a half-step brother and sister.
Yeah, I get that.
So they're not related at all, but it feels like they're related. So
well, it doesn't mean that you have to love people if you're related to them, but it's because you just don't always. But I have to say, it's lovely that they feel that, and that's down to you. That's the atmosphere that you've created, and that's the world in which you've said, let's do this. This is how it's going to work out. So James, how are you doing with all of this these days?
Yeah, good. I just think on that note, I think Jamie's backstage now. I've got a message. I don't know if he actually.
I can't see him. He's not. I promise you, he is not on my screen at all. Otherwise, I really would have brought.
He's on the system. Never mind. Yeah. So
he'd be at the bottom. Let's just see. Let me see if there's anything I can do. No, I can't. Hang on. What's this? I can't get the screen down any further. No, I can't. I cannot. I can't do this. I'm
This is
afraid.
one family event you're both not at. So
Well, there we are. I just can't bring him in. I don't know if Phil. I don't know if Phil is listening and can look and he can drop. Jamie in on the screen. I don't know, but I actually physically can't do it on my screen. I'm very, very sorry.
Yeah.
Not possible. I can see another screen, but I can't access it. So there we go. Sorry. There we
I
go.
think we're just
technically I can't do it.
Spreading the word, and I think a lot of
Aha! Stand by for excitement, everybody.
All right.
There he is.
Aha!
Aha, there you go. Fantabuloso. Well, the Fab Five, my goodness me, it's the most guests we've ever had. Jamie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ross.
How do you fit into this exciting episode of the Waltons? How are you fitting into this?
Well, I guess I'm the missing part of the couple with Liz, and obviously Liz and I, we've been. I am, as we call it, I'm kind of the member of the original family. But that's where I come into it, Russ.
You were in the original lineup of Kiss. That's the way I like
the original. Yeah, that's it.
Before Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley left.
That's it.
They're still Kiss. Now, so you were just to beat this to death with a hammer. So you were married. That's so everybody can follow this at home.
Right, yeah, we were.
Fantastic.
We were married. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, congrats. In all seriousness, congratulations on doing such a blooming good job, because you've obviously navigated very, very difficult waters in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and I think obviously the positive decision that Liz and I made to put the children at the heart of our sort of separation and divorce, although it was a very bittersweet time, we had these fantastic children that we needed to look after, and it was never a question for me that I wasn't going to be part of that caring, nurturing kind of environment, and we had to basically kind of make the best of that situation. It was going south for us as a couple, but it was very much still a great thing for us to have the children to sort of hold on to as that positive kind of golden thread, if you like, through our separation and divorce. And that was really, I think that was so fundamental, and that chimes obviously with James and your initiative, James, around the Parents' Promise, because having that positive outcome to look forward to hold on to, and those people that are really kind of new people that really need to be looked after, that gave us a sense of purpose out of that separation.
I'm going to say this, which you won't get on the BBC. You're a very handsome looking couple. No, you are. You are. I bet your kids are absolutely gorgeous. You're a very handsome looking couple. Now, James, when people get divorced and everything's going south and it's all horrible and suddenly you hate the person you're waking up with and all of that, how did you find the mental capacity to say, right, that's situation number one. Situation number two is we've got two children. We have got to sort this out. How did you talk yourself through this? Not your conversations with Liz, your conversations with yourself. How did you do that?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of my inner voice, I think my main driver was that I had seen a lot of friends and colleagues go through some pretty acrimonious situations where they had effectively they'd emotionally and financially bankrupted each other in terms of this kind of really spiteful outcome, and I just couldn't imagine going through that with Liz, because generally we'd been like a fantastically kind of great kind of couple together, but just we were increasingly having sort of more friction in the relationship, and so we made this positive decision, as I mentioned. But I had seen the wreckage that people had left behind them, and I was just internally committed not to be that person, to have that dysfunctional kind of relationship, and to have, quite honestly, those two small children looking up at me, kind of looking at me in later life going, well, Dad, why did it end up like this? Even if, and it could have even been the case that I wouldn't have even been in contact with them. That's how bad it could have been. And I couldn't let that go.
I always think that's an absolute tragedy. I think that's the definition of tragedy, that, one of the parents has nothing further to do with the children. It's awful. It's really horrible. The only person who really benefits, the only people from divorce, are the lawyers. And the thing about it is, excuse me, it's their job, and I don't care what they say, to drag it out as long as possible. Because the longer they do it, the more hours they can charge. And many lawyers will deny that. But once they get involved, man, you are sunk.
So Liz and I co-created our divorce, and effectively the courts were just a kind of rubber stamping exercise. So we wanted to kind of see that through, and we kind of created that family agreement that had to go to the courts, obviously because there were small children involved.
Sure.
But effectively the court process was just admin.
I gotta say, you are absolute shining examples. I'm not just blowing smoke up your posterior. You really, I just wish life could be like that. I understand why James and Harrod wanted to get you guys on, to show that it's possible. Because everyone would say, "Oh, Russ, that's ridiculous. It's a nonsense." It all gets horrible, but it doesn't need to be like that.
It's an odd thing to be proud of, but it. We have a sense of pride of
well, so you should. But so you should. You've brought, if for nothing else, you're bringing up balanced, happy children, which is surely one of the greatest attributes and achievements that anyone could ever wish for. That's it. Money and success is one thing, but if it comes at the cost that you've got kids who have just been cast aside, who you don't have time for, or everything like that, so what? So what? I just think it's meaningless. You guys have been extraordinary. You really have. James, anything you'd like to round it up with? How can people get hold of you and hold of the organisation?
Yeah, so you can find The Parents' Promise if you do Google search, but it'll be theparentspromise.org.uk. And on The Parents' Promise, there's a little bit about why it's so important, which hopefully Liz and Jamie have brought to life.
Totally.
And then you can download.
Beautifully done. Thank you for just before I'm interrupting, I apologise, but thank you both, Jamie and Liz. It's a big deal you came on and did this. I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. And all the team at Men's Radio, thank you very much for that. So it's very honest, it's very honest, and it's great. So, James, I'm sorry I jumped in there, but I just wanted to say thank you.
You can go to theparentspromise.org.uk, or there's the parents_promise on Twitter. And we're just keen, as we have done today, just to start this conversation. I think I don't think parents mean to damage their children. I think maybe it's a bit like, I might have talked about this last time, Russ, bullying 30 years ago was sort of tolerated. Yes, it happens. And we now know how damaging it is. I think we're now starting to realize how damaging bad divorce is, but it's currently just seen as its standard practice. Yep. So we'd love people to have a conversation, download The Promise, and then I suppose if you are going through it, try and do what Jamie and Liz have done, and that's what society should have more role models like that.
Well, you are role. I got to be honest, you are role models. You found yourself in a situation, and you made the very best of what was not a good situation, and you can't ask for it. And Harriet, last words from you.
Oh goodness! Well,
yes,
I think
I know. How would you encapsulate? How would you encapsulate the last? Well, 20 minutes?
I often get asked by teenagers what the meaning of love is, and it's a very difficult question to answer. And it's generally it's about putting somebody else's needs above your own. And when you divorce, you fall out of love. But what Jamie and Liz have managed to do was they continued to be able to love their children in a way that means they can put their children's needs before theirs. And I think it's an incredibly sort of selfless act, and one that if we can all learn from it and just realize that even if you're not in love with your co-parent anymore, you can still put the things that you've created together, your children's needs, above your own, then you're guaranteeing that that child has a better life forevermore. So well done, Jamie. It's really brilliant.
Do you know what? I'm going to say this, and you might think this is hippy dippy rubbish, and believe me, anybody less like a hippie won't be hard to find, because I'm not. But when people go through horrible divorces or horrible spiteful things, it shows on their face. It eats them up from the inside. I really do. And I'm looking at Jamie and I'm looking at Liz, and you can see, and I've never met you before, but you haven't got that. There's a kind of a peacefulness and a sort of centeredness about it. Do you see what I'm saying? And when people get so torn up, when you set out for revenge, as they always say, take 2 spades because you're going to dig 2 graves. Guaranteed. It's just not the way to be. Thank you all. It's been, I think, inspirational and a load of food for thought and really lovely. Thank you all so much. You
Thanks,
are very
Russ.
welcome back
Thank you.
anytime whatsoever. Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Bye
Bye.
now. Bye-bye. Anybody remember Phil Dave? Oh,
Who?
whatever happened to Phil Dave?
Who's that?
Well, it's Linda Day's son. Did you know that your mum got involved in that conversation? It was really sweet of her and very, very interesting. I'm going to read it again. And she says, my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. Did you know that, Phil?
Yes, I did know, yeah.
Okay, just checking. But they separated when I was 6. So your mum was 6 when they separated. It didn't really affect me at all when I was little. And here's the kicker, but it affected me terribly and has done since I was about 20.
Yeah. No, I did know.
They were lovely guests. That's the most guests we've ever had. Andrew Lucas, Serenity. Yeah, you know, or indeed any other TV show with Nathan Fillion. No, Serenity was, you're right. I couldn't think of the word, Andy, and bless you for that. Appreciate it. Dave Sleet, the big cheese at ANA. The worst case scenario planning, conversions. Do you mean conversation? No. Dave, I don't know. Help me out, Phil.
What?
What does this mean?
The worst case scenario, planning conversions happen. And
There you go.
prenup
You see, you're falling at the
templates.
same fence that I did. And prenup templates should include this. Conversations. Do you mean conversations, Dave Sleet?
Oh, I see.
You see. Got to do everything. You want something doing, do it yourself. Anyway, did you find
But
that
at least
interesting?
me mentioning it,
Yes.
did actually help you to realize what he meant. So I have come in useful.
You always can use it. The interesting thing, did you get the point I was trying to make? That when you're bitter about stuff in life, whatever, your career or your partner or whatever it is, it eats you up from the inside, and it shows.
Absolutely.
You show. And those two, I'd never met them before. They were brought on by our guests as examples. It was bloody marvelous, quite frankly. I thought it was great. But here's the thing. You could see on their faces, they were completely at peace with this. They were, this is the situation. Let's deal with it as adults.
Yeah,
Please don't use your children as hostages. It's just awful. So many people do it. It's so unnecessary. What we got? Let's dash across to Spain. Hi, boys.
Been chasing Gasman around the village.
Still no.
She says, still no word from my daughter. Phone stolen again. No one cares.
Well, Jesus Christ.
Chrissy, look, it's not true that no one cares, but you just haven't found the right people to help you.
This is an ongoing thing with, I'm going to be very careful because I don't know the personalities involved, but, Chrissy worries herself sick. She lives in Spain. She's worried sick about her daughter all the time. And it's horrible to read. I don't mean we don't want to hear about it. We do, Chrissy, because it's like a family here on MRS, but we feel helpless. What can we do? It's horrible watching you go through this, although we love the idea you're chasing the gas man. All I can think of is Benny Hill. And
actually, the gas man could probably that gas man could make that noise.
You see, the moment you've eaten, you feel better, don't you? This is it.
But I haven't eaten anything.
In one of the breaks when I was carrying the show, I could see you had mouthfuls of something. What were you eating then? We missed your Friday.
Oh, I see. Oh, yes.
We missed your Friday holler thing. We like your Friday holler thing. Do you know that if I had £1 for the number of people who contacted me, said, Russ, why was Phil in Regent's Park? And if I had enough, I could probably buy a whiskey at the Soho Whiskey Club. Because Phil was he left his job. He'd finished his shift. He then
I don't mean left. I finished for the day.
Left. No. Ah, right.
Vicious rumors.
We've done a little job. At least that cheers me up. We just had BLT. Bachman, Lerner, Turner Overdrive. Bacon Lesson tomorrow. BLT, marvelous. Marvelous. I had a club sandwich. I didn't.
Wasn't he a DJ? BLT.
so random. That's so random. Dave Lee Travis. That was the last time I think I had dinner with the late and lovely Lindsay DePaul.
I love the way that Andy has jumped in straight away to say DLT as if I didn't realize what I just said. But thank you, Andy. You're quite right. Dave Lee Travis is what I was referring to.
The hairy cornflake, which I always found the most bizarre moniker. The hairy cornflake. What the hell does... I never knew what that kind of thing...
Well, it was basically a cornflake that was past its best.
Disgusting. I can't remember the last time I had cereal. I never eat cereal. Don't eat it.
Well, I had it this morning. I love cereal. This is part of my problem.
What problem?
Well, I don't eat the right things.
You know, I've had 2 espressos and a banana. That's it. That's what I've had.
Mr. Health Drive.
No, I'm not really. I don't like cereals, and they don't like me, and I don't have anything with sugar in it. Try not to, because I think it's a killer. It's a heck of a show today. Most guests I think I overcooked the egg. I don't care. I don't care. Go big or go home. That's what I say. Go big or go home.
I might suggest that it is better that than to just have the 2 of us fooling around.
No. People would love that. 3 hours of you and I being arses, fantastic.
Well, within reason.
That would be just... that would be... Hang on. Here we go. Oh, this is what everyone's having. So Ramsey's rocked up now. I just had a toasted bagel with smoked salmon and cream cheese. See, you're talking to the converted here. Smoked salmon and cream... Oh, I didn't even read ahead. SSCC. A great service in this cafe, as my wife reminds me.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Do beg your pardon.
So professional.
Do beg your pardon.
I got to be honest.
I normally can get to the mute button in time.
No, he's absolute rubbish, but he's the cheapest in his range. So that's why we have to. That's why we have to. Toasted bagel.
I've never done that on air before. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Do you know when people? I changed my diet, and I having not had one for ages, I went and had a toasted bagel, a smoked salmon and cream cheese bagel, some weeks ago. Wow, I felt ill afterwards. Wow, it just hit me. I really felt bad. I couldn't handle it at all. I've kind of changed my diet. I love them, and I couldn't handle it. Absolutely could not handle it in the least. Do you think if you wish somebody happy birthday and you send a nice Facebook message, but you don't phone them, that you're in trouble?
Well, I'd say that you're not as good a friend.
I failed.
No, do you know what? Actually,
I got a right bollocking. Yes.
No, because I think it's part and parcel of the world we live in now. Exactly the same. We were having this conversation the other day when sort of one used to send a letter. You got the breathing space. And it's exactly this. But it's the same kind of thing as when we used to send greetings cards. I know some of us still do, but what I mean is we used to sort of by default would send greetings cards to somebody if it was, say, their birthday or an anniversary, whatever it might be. By sending those greetings cards, you're pressing the pause, you're in the moment. But by sending a Facebook message, you're not pausing. You've probably taken 2 seconds to type something out, and it just doesn't necessarily have the same sentiment behind it, does it? Necessarily. The intention is there.
I was told off. Anyway, Veronica Curran, my cousin Fran, if you're listening. You know who. I got a mouthful. Veronica Curran, as the adults that created a living being, we need love and care. Never treat them as possession. They are a creation. Why am I doing that? They are a creation that we should nurture and grow. Bloody right. Should never be influenced by either or mayhem involved in the separation between two. Veronica, you're not helping me here. Should never be. Phil, help me out. I'm drowning.
Should never be influenced by either or mayhem involved in the separation between two adult people. Grown-up behavior.
Yeah,
I think I believe a forward slash was missing between either and or, and that would have helped you.
Okay, back to the culinary.
Although I will say one thing though, I never realised Veronica Curran was the person behind Mrs. Doubtfire.
Aye, she is. It was based on her. It was originally called Mrs. Curran. Chrissy Richards in Spain. If I have breakfast, she doesn't speak like this, I'm sure, but she does for the purposes of this bit. If I have breakfast, I have God almighty, do you?
Broccoli
fried.
Blimey, poor Mike. Good Lord. Well, who says romance is dead?
Anyway, why he makes those whirly gigs which whirl around in the wind.
No wonder you were chasing the gas man. Anyway, is that what you meant? Anyway, have broccoli fried in olive oil and an egg mixed up with it. Good for cholesterol.
We can hear in the house, for Christ's sake. Open the window.
Don't light up in here.
Put that fag out. Put that fag out. You're going to blow us.
I mean, she says it's good for cholesterol. I'd say it's good for calogas. Oh dear.
Seem to amuse ourselves there.
So sorry, Chrissy.
Right,
you know we're very fond.
I only send a card to my best friend Jenny. That seems very nice. And then back to Veronica. I'm going to phone at some points once I get the accent. Oh yes. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you actually sound like. One goes, "Hello, I'm Veronica Curran."
And might I also point out, have you ever wondered what happens if you were to create the love child of Simon Cowell and Prue Leith? Then you get Andy Lucas, who says, "Sounds vile, very greasy." Bit strong, Andy, if you don't mind me saying, but fine. Maybe.
I couldn't face it for breakfast. Ooh. No, I couldn't. I couldn't face it.
It's funny because Mike can't face it either.
It's like, could you point that way, darling?
You know I love you, but isn't it time for your constitutional?
Thank God they live in the middle of fields.
Rented out part-time as pesticide.
You know where they are in Spain because the cows. Let me apologise on Deluxe Radio because all you're hearing is this.
Oh, I hurt. Oh, ha. Oh.
All right. Oh, God.
Oh my good God. Oh, heaven only knows what Eddie and my colleagues walking past this meeting must think.
They must think we wish we were on that show. They'd be saying we wish we were on that show because that show looks like a lot more fun.
Oh my God. I can only apologise. I'm so sorry. Anyway.
Saying, Chantal, help. Well, Chantal will be here with us at 1:30. Chantal Ricard's OBE. Couldn't believe.
God.
Yeah, I know. There you are, the endorphins released there. All the endorphins released. Monday.
It sounds like, Chrissy, you're almost single-handedly responsible for changing the ozone layer. Anyway, right, that's enough. Okay.
What's Kimmy saying here? She says maybe marriage should be like a car and have regular service or an MOT. And if not going well, be able to part exchange. Having said that now, I found I want to keep my old banger forever and well maintained.
Well, that's the way to talk about hubby,
nicely
I'm sure.
Greased and lubed, I hope, obviously. Keeping the car analogy going there. Now, talking about Chantal, briefly, she's got this OBE, right? Which is big.
Which is very impressive.
It is. And you'd think it would be like to go with that. This is something you would strive for or whatever. It arrived in the post. Did you remember that? It arrived in the post. Not even registered. It just arrived, popped through the letterbox. I mean, how crap is that?
I mean, you say that, but that's quite nice, actually, because I didn't realise Amazon were doing OBEs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get next day delivery if you're Prime, like me.
Well,
if you're Prime. You know
next day knighthood.
I quite like a knighthood.
Really?
Quite cool. Yeah, it'd be nice.
I think I could only, if you were to be nice, I could only refer to you as Sir Russell. I don't think Sir Russ has got the same.
No, Sir Russ would be horrible.
Yeah, it's the same way that I could only. I can only ever be Sir Philip.
You know, I didn't want to be Russ. I when I started at Capital, I was Russell, and they said, "Oh no, that's not catchy enough. No, you got to be Russ." And I go, "Well, really?" So,
well, we had the same problem where our surnames are actually shorter than our first names, and I don't know if that's ever a good look.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, there's done me
I
no
think
harm.
we should be like our next guest and just have a shorter first name.
Yeah, but he's too
as it
cool.
were.
He looks like he should have like a country and western album out. That's what I think. The very best. K-Tel presents the very best of TJ Power.
Oh, look, here's TJ Power now. TJ, how lovely of you to join us again. How are you?
I'm well, gents. How are you doing? That was a cool introduction.
Yeah, well, we're okay.
There's an introduction you won't forget in a hurry, I'm sure.
You've had a radical haircut.
Yes, there seems to be no hair on my head anymore. It's
Was
pretty
there a
short.
reason
I feel pain, I promise you.
Was there a reason behind the radical haircut?
I actually just was quite keen for simplifying things, spending lots of time behind the cameras and stuff like that, and doing videos. And I was playing with my hair too much, so I thought if there isn't any on my head, nothing to play with, I can get the job done a bit faster.
No, but then don't you like the feeling of when it's just shaved and so like you rub the back of the head and it sort of feels a little bit like a bristle or something? It's quite nice.
It is.
I've absolutely no flipping idea why this conversation started. It's the most extraordinary thing that I never thought I'd ever say on air. But anyway,
it's my fault. I don't care. Wow. Okay, your starter for 10, TJ Power. Before we get into it, if you understand this,
RLRRLRLL. One would assume right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left.
It's a paradiddle. Quite right.
Isn't it a drum analogy or something, like a drum instruction?
No, it's a paradiddle.
Yeah, I remember paradiddles. I did a little bit of that at school.
Yeah, so it's a paradiddle. Okay, there we go.
I think I did in reception. I'm fairly sure I just grew out of that habit afterwards.
God's sake. Right, TJ Power. TJ Power.
Hello.
What's been going on since we last met? Because you were jolly impressive.
Yeah, what's been going on?
Yeah,
I think we spoke. Yeah, so apart from shaving my head, that's been my primary focus of my time.
Yeah, sure. That's probably it. That's probably the end of the interview. He shaved his head. Thanks for joining us. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where we were before we kicked off. Before we last spoke, I
can't remember what I had yesterday for dinner. Please tell me what we last spoke about.
I know the last time you were on, we were commenting on how impressive a piece of furniture behind you it is. Well, it looks like a bar or something like that, and I'm pleased to see you've still got it. So that's good.
Yeah, so I've been carefully dusting that while shaving my head, and also doing a bit of work in the background, which has been
that would be good.
Maybe that's what you need to tell us about. What work have you been up to?
Probably that would be the thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I've launched a new partnership now with Integrated Care 24 and the NHS, which is working with the staff there. So we've built kind of a mind health program that a big pilot study have been going through of clinicians and 111 callers, a real range of people. And that's been very cool. That's been one of my big focuses, working with these staff. It's been pretty chaotic time working in the medical industry over the last few years. So it's been wonderful supporting them. That first program comes to its end next week, actually. So yeah, that's been one of my big missions.
What was the driving idea behind it?
Behind delivering the program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the thoughts?
I feel a large amount of empathy in my mind to the experiences that people are having, navigating this world now, overwhelming and stressful and fearful and all of these emotional experiences. And I really wanted to deliver a program that empowered them with a new set of skills, a new set of behaviors and insights that could support them as they navigate this unusual world that we're wandering around in.
And not knowing what's going on.
There may be some, though. There may be some who would turn around and say, and this is said, by the way, with enormous respect, it's actually giving you the chance to clear up any misconceptions. What gives you the knowledge, for want of a better term, to be able to issue that guidance through this work? Because this is so foreign to all of us, isn't it, really? And there may be some people out there who would like to know sort of what it is I suppose, qualifies you to be able to give that guidance and the help that people so desperately need, because it may go actually one step further to telling them how good you are.
Yeah, for sure. So I went through university, enjoyed studying the world of psychology and health and neuroscience at Exeter University, and did a master's there, specialized in the world of clinical psych, and really got deep into neuroscience, fascinated by how the modern world is affecting how our
So
brains
just
work.
to clarify, we're dealing with someone who clearly is not very bright here, so we can only apologize. So.
I'm a bit of a muppet, but
Phil,
I like studying
Phil,
the
he
brain.
got a GCSE in woodwork. He's bluffing.
Given one
You are reminding us of why we were so desperate to have you back on this show. So absolutely. So you've got all of those letters after your name, which is really rather extraordinary at the best of times. So how have you put that to good use? What have you been telling people?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing I did was start lecturing at Exeter University. So began building third year psychology modules and started working with the students when I was there. And that began opening the door to teaching in this space. I discovered I really like this conversation of the experience we're having in our minds. I empathize. I feel these challenging emotions too. I feel that this unusual modern world can make us feel low at times, demotivated, and not as excited by our experience. So I kind of was doing the lecturing, then had an opportunity to build a program for young women that were navigating cancer through COVID. And
wow.
It was a charity supporting them. And they were suddenly seeing an increase compared to normal. Of course, that's an unbelievably challenging thing to go through, but a rise in mental health difficulty because of changes in scans and appointments and all that stuff. So I began working with them, built this first kind of iteration of this program. And then ever since the last year and a half, it's been a wild journey of working in a real variety of areas, corporate areas, younger people, students, small businesses, large businesses, whatever it may be. And yeah, I found myself here today chatting away about the mind.
Do you think you've peaked too early? Because you're crazy. You're crazy young. You're crazy young, and you've done so. I'm actually being 10% facetious and 90% serious, because it's really interesting. Because you're obviously.
Well, I guess that what Russ is probably sort of saying, which I think is a perfectly valid point, is where do you go from here?
Yeah,
honestly, because you've achieved such a ridiculously impressive amount that most people would be complacent with in their lifetime. Never mind when they're still mid-20s.
No, he's
24.
Younger.
Yeah,
he's 24 for God's sake. I got milk in my fridge older than that.
Ew! I'm not coming around to yours for tea.
Thank God for that. No,
where
but
would I go
seriously, TJ, you're 24. Please, this is not patronizing at all. What you've done is freaking amazing. And do you think, right, so I've got another 50 years of,
Yeah, so look, what this is a really roundabout way of asking you what's next. What do you hope to achieve next? Because you've already achieved so much.
For sure. I think it's a good question. I sometimes think, am I getting my kind of early start in life and it's going quickly at the moment? But I really feel like I'm just getting going, to be honest. I'm really now into connecting with people and I'm doing a lot of speaking. I feel like it's really just getting started. In terms of what's next, one of the big components of the last few years of doing all this teaching is I've been working with groups of people that are either a part of an organization, they're a staff member, whatever it may be, they're part of a university body, whatever it is. And I create a lot of content on things like Instagram and LinkedIn and receive a lot of messages, individuals asking if there was an opportunity to work together. And for the last year, I've been really planning out and figuring out how I could support individuals in the best way possible. So about a month ago, I launched this new app and an opportunity for individuals to go on a journey together effectively. So you join a community, you go on these online 6-week live journeys, and it brings individuals together basically. So similar to what I do with NHS or staff members, whatever it may be, that gives individuals the chance to get involved in this at very, very accessible price, just so we can start getting this conversation more widely spread. And that is the next step. I just did a masterclass on it. I've got a masterclass this afternoon, which will be cool.
It won't be as much fun as this, though. Be honest.
No, this is easily the highlight of my day. I've been looking
we know
forward to
that.
this all week.
Oh my goodness me, man! I'm sorry, I don't believe that for a second. You sound like you never had a dull moment.
No, he knows it. This is he's got. This is it. This is it. You and me. This is it.
Do you get actually, and also, can I just ask about really quickly, just before we move on slightly, just on the subject of sort of learning and education, clearly it means, because I'm talking to someone who is not in the least bit academic. I'm sure this comes as a massive shock to you, but I'm not in the least bit academic.
Really?
Do you get some sort of thrill out of it? Because I get this sense that you seem to thrive off of learning.
Yeah, 100%.
What does it do for you? Can you describe that feeling?
I've always had a mind that likes to kind of solve problems, not necessarily at school with this typical ways of education. However, because I struggled a bit with that when I was younger, but when I discovered that I had some interest in the mind, I started gravitating towards solving my family's, my friends, people's challenges that they're experiencing and whatever it may be. And now that I get to chat to lots of people about this stuff, I get such a buzz in my experience. I spend a lot of time walking out in the quiet in nature. That's where I get all the creativity and create
that goes
peace
back
in
to
my own head.
Dr. Zoe Williams was saying at the front end of the show.
Yeah.
Going out into nature.
I need that time. And when I'm out there and I'm exploring and my mind creatively thinks about one of the big problems, be that I think the phone is right at the core of the difficulty our society is experiencing right now. So I think a lot about the relationship we all have with these phones. I think a lot about relationship we have with ourselves and how we chat to ourselves in our heads. So when I'm exploring these ideas
stop.
in my mind,
The phones Phil and I bang on about endlessly because it's a good thing and a curse at the same time, and we've already covered that today.
No worries.
The conversation. No. I want to get on to something else. The conversations you have in your head. Are they good?
What?
Are they good? Are they bad?
Not all the time.
Critical? Are they critical?
Yeah, I observe that conversation that takes place in my mind when I can, rather than just always being intertwined inside it. And I notice how hard I can be on myself, how judgmental I can be.
You're splitting into three personas, if you think about it, and it's a very I think it's a really important point, because you're stepping outside as TJ Power, observing TJ Power beating up TJ Power. In other words, you're having a critical conversation, but another part of you is saying, "Wait a minute, hang on a mo." Why am I being so hard on myself? Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very very difficult.
It's spot on, Russ. And
you got any advice on that? Because it's a swine. It's a real swine.
Do. Why don't we do some kind of exercise for it? You guys can do it with me, and anyone listening could do this as well. It's nice and simple. So the premise of this exercise.
I've misunderstood.
Yeah. So what everyone needs to do is start doing press ups, even if you're driving. No. So what we're going to do is do a little exercise. The challenge we have in the conversations in our mind is often telling ourselves what we're not getting right, what's not going right in our own experience, how our life isn't going right. And our brain has a tendency to focus on the negative. And there are always fantastic things that are occurring. And there's always things that we are getting right. And I think it's vital we start guiding our mind towards that type of train of thought. So this is a very simple thing to do. It's called TAE, so TAE. And what this stands for?
Does that stand for anything?
Yeah. So we're going to select one thing for each of these. You guys can do it with me. And anyone listening, you can do this in your own mind. So the first thing we're going to select is something you're thankful for. Just let one thing come into your mind and think, yeah, I'm happy that I have that experience in my life.
Do we say this out loud?
Experience or hang on, TJ.
No. Shall we say this out loud? Do you want us to say out loud what we're thankful for?
Yeah. Say that something.
But is it a thing? Is it a thing? Is it like what? Can you narrow it down a little bit?
Just one thing that makes your mind think, I'm grateful for that. It could be having this conversation. It could be your bed. It could be your partner, your dog.
Oh, I know. I'm thankful for Russ's mute button.
Wonderful.
You're an arse.
Okay.
You're an arse.
That's
This is
great.
a man at the cutting edge of psychology. You're an arse. Right.
No, do you know, honestly, do you know what I'm thankful for? I'm being deadly serious now. Okay. And I often think about this, I'm actually thankful I have a pulse. And I think a lot of the time people forget that. Just happy to be alive. Not because of anything serious necessarily, but just I believe it's too easy to forget that. And I do try and remind myself. So I'm thankful I've got a pulse.
Wonderful. That's a good one. Russ, anything that's coming into your mind?
I'm thankful for my family.
Okay.
Well, now I just look horrible.
Yeah, you're just self-centered, selfish git.
So continuing through it. So
okay, let's move on.
In order to understand it, what we have to understand is part of the reason that our mind is talking to us in a negative way, telling us what we're not getting right in our behavior, or telling us what isn't going right in our life, is because we are constantly consuming information from these phones, from social media, that is a portrayal of the highlights of everyone's experience. So that's what you post on social media. You post when you go for drinks or see your friends or go for a walk or go on holiday. And it's just a giant stream of highlights. So then when you're sitting at home thinking, well, I'm not doing anything and I haven't done the exercise today and I'm not very good at my job and your mind begins to gravitate in towards those negative conversations of what you're not getting right. So we've got our thankful. The next thing we need to do is acknowledge something that we've been doing recently that has been supporting our minds. So anything coming to your head, that could be walking, food, connecting with people, whatever it may be.
Ooh,
something you acknowledge that's being supporting your mind.
For me, for me, the thing I would acknowledge is that I actually did do something for my mind. It's precisely why I took 2 weeks off of work and everything stopped. It was over last week and the week before, just 2 weeks, no work, nothing, and it was because I felt my mind actually disintegrate, for want of a better term. So I had to back off.
Do you plan to come back to work anytime soon?
You're so funny.
So that's a good one.
Right.
So
I haven't answered yet.
Your mind slow down for a bit is a thing we need to do.
I acknowledge, and this is really random, but it's true, walking my dog, listening to my audiobooks every day. That's
Wonderful.
That's what I do for myself. That's it.
And how do you feel that supports your mind? What is the thing about that experience that feels like it supports you?
Because I'm out, I'm walking. I walk 2 to 3 miles minimum every day. And I got my little doggy and she loves doing all that stuff. And I like listening to the books. So it's my time. That's me time. That is my time. I don't take phone calls. And I unless I'm really brewing over an issue, which I need to resolve and come up with a decision for a way forward, that's when I can switch off. So that's what it does for me. It frees up my mind.
Wonderful. What's interesting about both the things you've acknowledged is taking a bit of time to slow down. And I think we underestimate the importance of that. We're living in a world that is so fast paced now, where we have so much to think about, so much information coming in, so much to do. It is hardly surprising that at times our minds are very overwhelmed and they're thinking lots and they feel busy. And
see, I'm really pleased that you said about too much information, because I have for a long time thought that we live in a world which is information overload with so many challenges. Yeah, but so many garbage. But it's so many challenges to the perspective we have on life. And if I give an example, which I hope no one takes offense to, because actually I'm using it as a perfectly serious example.
I'm offended straight away. I don't even know what it is.
Is when we are trying to now find ourselves in a world where people are reinventing what it is for gender. So different types of genders. For so many centuries, it has been man or woman. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second that if someone feels that they are not able to identify as a man or a woman for whatever reason, that they shouldn't be allowed to be who they want to be. Absolutely. But the problem when you are trying to inflict it on those who have never been exposed to that and telling them that they've been wrong all this time, thinking like that it's either man or woman, that alone is enough to blow many people's minds, because suddenly everything we know or we think we know about basic human biology is totally wrong.
We need a whole show dedicated to that.
But that's what I'm trying to get. That's just one example. But that's just one example. But that's just one example, and that is a prime example of information overload. So I'm so pleased that you said that, because for someone as clever as you to say it means that I feel that I have been remotely correct in thinking it. So thank you.
Number 3 on the list. Come along, TJ Powell.
Number 3, 100%, Phil. And there's a lot of stuff for our minds to consider these days, and it's hardly surprising that so many people getting overwhelmed in their experience and so many teenagers are having a tough time in their heads. There's a lot of decisions now that weren't around before. Number 3, so thankful for something. You acknowledge something you've been doing that's supporting your mind. As I say, the mind likes to tell you what you're doing wrong. The final one is just something you're excited for. So TAE. So something coming up for either of you that you're excited for. It could be as simple as going for lunch. It could be as big as going for your honeymoon, whatever it may be. Something that's coming up.
Well, I reckon that the thing that I would be excited about is that the reason why I did this little break of mine, I went around, if those who've been listening know, I went to different parts of the UK, because where I was supposed to be going originally, unfortunately got cancelled. Well, not, postponed is the best way to put it. Because my original trip has been postponed, I suppose I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to the time when I can return to the Middle East and actually sort of soak up a bit of Middle Eastern sunshine. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Good thing to imagine. You can see it kind of excites the mind as you think of something you're excited for. Russell, anything for you?
Nope.
Nothing you're excited.
You're such a killjoy.
No, this is the thing. I keep thinking, what am I excited about? And
sorry, so you're telling me you don't get excited about the Saturday morning club that you go to?
I look forward to it enormously. I don't know if I'm excited about it. I look forward to it very much.
All right. What about excited for a time? All right. What about excited? Okay. What about excited for a time you can return to America? You have an absolute love affair with that country. So what about that?
I don't know if I'm excited. I don't know if I'm excited about it. I really don't know. I'm
TJ, what we have learned today, this is quite fascinating, is we've learned that Russell is a miserable sod at heart. So thank you for highlighting that.
I've never denied it.
So
I tell you what I am excited. I tell you what I am excited about. This is weird. But 2 things. One, it's my birthday next week, and I'm taking the whole family out to my favorite Italian in Soho. It's going to be great. So I'm excited about that, although of course everyone will moan and groan and bitch at the table, which I'm not so excited about. That's right. Okay, put that one aside. I'm excited because I came up with a notion for what I want to do with men's radio, and by chance I found somebody yesterday, was recommended to me. I had a great conversation with them. I'm going to meet up with them in town hopefully early next week, and I'm going to propel us towards where I've always wanted to go, and that excites me.
Perfect.
There you go.
That excites me. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Well, that excites me.
So this is pretty simple. It's nothing. It's not rocket science. Something you're thankful for. Something you acknowledge. Something you're excited for. The reason this is so valuable for the mind, and when you get familiar with this, it takes about 10 seconds when you're walking along, walking your dog. Oh yeah, TAE. And then you just run through whatever's in your mind in that moment. There's always going to be something that can come in. The value comes from a neuroscientific perspective in the fact that our brains are constantly rewiring themselves and adapting. There's something called neuroplasticity. So originally, science thought the brain was always fixed and it always remained the same. What we've discovered now is the brain will adapt and change. For example, if I told you this evening to get home and try and brush your teeth with the wrong hand, you try and brush your teeth and it'd be really, really difficult. Over a couple months, if you persisted, your brain would rewire and it would guide you and you'd be able to brush your teeth with the other hand. Our minds in this modern world of constantly being shown all of the fantastic things that people get up to has led to many of us feeling dissatisfied with our experience and constantly telling us what we're not getting right. If on a regular basis, you start thinking, well, I am thankful that thing exists. I am acknowledging myself for making some progress towards improving how my mind feels. And that thing that's coming up is exciting. Then you start gravitating to your mind wiring towards the positive, which is pretty useful in a world where it's gravitating towards the other side. So I really recommend TAE, thankful, acknowledge, excited for, daily basis for just 10 or 15 seconds.
Thankful, acknowledge, excited. They don't need to be big
Excited
things.
for.
Let me just do excited for. So the excited thing, you know, people are being critical of me because you don't get excited. No, I don't. I actually don't get excited about stuff. I think I'm probably too bruised and battered and tired. But small things like last night, because I never go to bed before like 3 or 4 in the morning ever. So last night I was found a channel and they were doing some slow cooker recipes, and I thought, I'm really looking forward to making that, which is such a tiny little, in the great scheme of life, pathetically small, but it's like I'm excited about it. It's a new recipe. I want to try it. It looks good.
There you go. So looking forward
that can't
to
be
excited
but
for.
TJ, that can't be the summation of my life, for Christ's sake. I want to try a new recipe in a slow cooker. I mean, God.
I know, but sometimes we can just focus on the smaller little things that are making us feel good. We live in this world of so many big things. We need like a new car, a new house, a new partner, whatever it is.
No.
Sometimes little things excite us.
I don't. That doesn't interest me in the least. Let me just. I'm hiding Phil. Thank Christ for that. Ramsey says, I'm with Russ. I can't get excited about travel anymore. This is it because of the palaver, the danger of being stuck at Heathrow for hours. I can bear it. The COVID test. I miss the US. I do desperately. And I haven't seen my brother in California for over 2 years, but I can't get excited about the prospect of sitting in a fart tube for hours on end. I'm with you.
Very classy, Ramsey. Classy.
I'm going to have to be going to America from next year, which I am massively looking forward to. I've got a particular reason that's coming up, and I will be going to Texas, and I'm excited about that. In fact, I started looking at flights yesterday.
Are you going to go and try and change their mind on the abortion law?
No, I'm going to go and visit my son.
Oh, okay, that's right then.
No, of course I'm
We're going for abortion and gender with Phil. There's good big topics to discuss.
Hey,
this is the Veronica says, I follow a stroke sufferer in rehab. It's amazing in regards to his mind and rewiring so many of the brain functions during speech. Yeah. This sums it up.
Wow,
right,
interesting.
TJ, Phil wants to talk about abortion. And he wants to talk about
Excuse me.
and I want to. No, you did. You brought it up. I didn't. You opened the door. I merely want to talk about my new slow cooker recipe. Who's happier? Thank you.
There you go.
Sorry, you are happier than me?
Yeah, I always am.
Dancing with his hands up.
Yeah.
And I think
hello, criticism coming in. Here we go.
Yes.
I want to hear more from TJ Power. Well, Siobhan Clifford, fine, I'll shut the hell up. Off you go, TJ.
Hi, Siobhan. Nice to connect with you and hear these words.
Getting nowhere there.
Well, the picture was nice. What do you want me to
the
chat
picture,
about
yes,
then,
very glamorous. Should we have the picture up again? Very glamorous. There we go. Look at that. What a glamorous woman she is. Charming and delightful and from Birmingham. So, right.
Almost the same as Chantal Rickards. Hi, Chantal.
Hi. Hello.
No, I'm in trouble now. Jeez.
Yes.
Chances, look, I'm in deep do. Look. I want to hear more from TJ Power.
Well, I'm very happy to stand down for a week and you can carry on with TJ.
No.
No. On the contrary, Chantal, I tell you what happens. This.
That's even better. We like that.
All yours, TJ.
Right. TJ, I want you to do what you just did to me and Phil to Chantal.
Oh dear.
Come on. No, Chantal, you'll like this.
Okay.
That's a lot.
Chantal, this is an exercise for how you communicate with yourself in your mind. At times, you may experience, like I do, being a bit hard on yourself, judging yourself, telling yourself what's not going to plan, what you're not doing right. Simple process guides you towards the alternative way of thinking. So, it's called TAE. It's called TAE. And the first thing you're going to name now, if you can, is something that you're thankful for. Something that comes into your mind. Doesn't need to be something huge.
I am thankful for my siblings.
Wonderful. Good example. Okay. The next thing you're going to do is acknowledge something that you've been doing recently that's been supporting your mind. Anything that comes into your mind that you feel like, yeah, that's been helping me out.
Watching television.
Okay. What sort of television do you feel?
Okay.
Yeah. If you feel like that, does it make you feel good? It makes you feel happy, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It stimulates my brain every minute of every day of every year.
Okay, there you go. So thankful for the siblings, acknowledge the TV you watch, and then something you're excited for that's coming up. Doesn't have to be something big. It could be you're excited for dinner later or seeing a friend, whatever it may be.
Okay, no, I'm having a dinner party tonight. I'm looking forward to lots of stimulating conversation around the kitchen table.
There you go. Okay, so you've got siblings, TV, and a dinner party.
Did you notice how Chantel absolutely sailed through that? Russ and I pressing about for 20 minutes, and Chantel just absolutely glided through it. TJ, you are no doubt about it an absolute marvel, and it's not really a wonder we were so keen to have you back, and hopefully you will come back again because, frankly, well, you're no two words, you're brilliant, sir.
Yes,
so
you're far too clever for 24, far too clever for 94, to be honest with you. Would you give my personal regards to your delightful parents?
Yeah,
who are
for sure.
Who are wow, they're movers and shakers. We like them
actually, do you know what, TJ? Did you want to stick around? Did you want to stick around and talk telly? You're welcome to. And I feel I'm worried it's not going to be sort of as intellectually stimulating for you, but you're very welcome to do so.
Yeah, if you have me, I like having this conversation.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
You see, because that's good. Because now her wish is my, her command is my wish. There we go. It's all sorted. Marvelous. So we've got more TJ power. Okay.
Chantel, we're all ears and all eyes. What have you been spotting for us this week?
Talking about intellectual stimulation, there is a show at the moment that came out about a week ago, 10 days ago, called Squid Game.
Oh, yes.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
It is an extraordinary program. It is just about to go to #1 in the Netflix charts. It's already #1 in 90 countries around the world, and it has literally taken the place by storm. And it's a South Korean drama. But what is interesting about it is very intellectually demanding and sort of intellectually stimulating at the same time as telling a rather bizarre story about the basic storyline. 456 people are gathered together who are all in debt. And they are all told that if they come and play a game, they might be able to play off their debts. They've never met each other before. Some are people who are from the higher part of the social scale. Some are people who are on the street. But they've got one thing in common, which is they are all massively in debt. Now, actually, that mirrors quite a lot of the problems going on in South Korea at the moment, where debt is a really big deal. And the disparity between the super rich and the very poor is vast. It's enormous. So this rather weird Korean drama is a bit of a social satire. It's got dark comedic intent. It's got horror, really, some very, very horrible sequences running all the way through it.
I was going to say, I hope it's not too satirical, because in a lot of the cases, it's either do or die in some of the cases for the players.
This is it, because what you don't realize is that when these 456 people come together, they are asked to play a Squid Game. A Squid Game is the equivalent of a kid's game that we might have played. And the first one that they play is what we call musical statues. So they have to run towards a wall. And if they are caught moving, something appalling happens to them. Now, what happens very quickly, and you see this really in the very early part of the film, is that people die if they don't succeed, which is horrific in itself. But you realize that the whole drama is taking a completely different turn from where you thought it had started out. It's extraordinary, literally has taken the world by storm. It's very well made. It's had $500 million spent on it, which for a South Korean program is extraordinary. And
not to be too stupid, is it subtitled or is it in English?
Well, on my Netflix feed, I can either have it subtitled or I can have it dubbed. I can have a voice. Right. If I want what actually is an American voice, if I want an American voice, I can have that, which actually is what I elected to watch. So people now feel as though we've got past the barrier of subtitles. People are so used to subtitles that they don't mind them so much. But Netflix is keeping up with programs and putting in voice-led programs for overseas programming. So anyway, it's very interesting. You'll know by the end of episode 1 whether it's something you're going to stick with. But the story is really compelling. The acting is fantastic, and it's very different from anything else you'll see on telly right now.
I have to say though that it's just the notion of this do or die thing. Everyone is raving about it. I can't tell you there's not one person who's got Netflix that I know who's seen it who doesn't rave and say, please watch it. It's fantastic. You must see it. But I don't know. I know it's not that I have a problem with watching people lose their lives on television, because obviously I know it's not real. It's not necessarily a real documentary. For crying out loud, it was not that long ago I was watching the 9/11 documentary, and that of course is sadly not make-believe. But the point is that it's something about sort of maybe making something as serious as financial problems, and I know people who have got their share of financial problems, and just relating it to paying the ultimate price. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if it's a mental block. It's probably a really silly thing, and I probably should try and stop overthinking it, but there's something about it. But everyone raves about it. So that's Squid Game on Netflix.
I don't fancy.
Well, I think you should try it. Did either of you watch Parasite?
Nope.
So Parasite won the Oscar for Best Film in 2018. It was a South Korean movie. It's very, very well made movie. And it's about a family who are on Skid Row in South Korea, who secretly move into the home and basically take over, like a parasite would take over a host, take over the home of an upper middle class family. It was directed by Boon Jong-ho, who I interviewed in Hollywood through a translator, which was quite interesting because I'd never actually done that translation thing before. But anyway, that was a terrific movie. But clearly the stuff that's coming out of South Korea at the moment is really new to most of us in the Western world. But it's challenging drama, it's challenging conversation, it's challenging convention. And I think you should give Squid Game a try.
I shall keep an eye out. TJ, have you seen Squid Game yet?
I haven't yet. I was planning on giving it a shot. My girlfriend wants to watch it together. So when
so there you go. You've got to press the pause button for a moment. Yeah. Okay. So am I allowed to make it?
Looks pretty crazy.
Andy, yes, it is. Andy says, "Is it on Netflix?" Yes, that's Squid Game on Netflix. Am I allowed to make a suggestion from Netflix as well? Which is the third series of a drama called Sex Education is out now. Now, I have to tell you that many people have got sort of the impression, sort of rightly, sort of wrongly, that Sex Education is what one might describe as sort of like an English version of an American teen drama. So, you know, the sort of Saved by the Bell sort of thing, that it's really not. It's a little more X-rated than that. So I wouldn't suggest anyone under the age of 18 watching it as such. But it is something about it that is quite gripping. And I don't know what on earth it is, because it's a hybrid of arguably all of the worst elements of, to me anyway, America, but being brought over here to the UK. And that is this sort of typical high school attitude of everyone's got to be the best. You've got to sort of, there's no one thing that's quite peculiar about the school that it's based at is it is an American high school based in the UK. What's particularly peculiar about it is that it would appear as though everyone's living in the 1980s, but with modern mobile phones. So there are some very strange elements to it. It's a real juxtaposed piece of art. That's the only way I can describe it. It's almost like it has been deliberately designed to mess with your mind, not necessarily in a bad way, but to almost challenge your mind as to what you would expect to see in a drama of that ilk. And that is why Sex Education is quite gripping. I don't know what it is. It stars Gillian Anderson, so of course she who was in The X-Files.
That's right.
And you've got, amongst many other things, of course, but you know, that's certainly what I remember.
Well, Margaret Thatcher in The Crown, she has been most
yes, of course,
recently.
Of course, most certainly she has. arguably with the most shocking impression of her accent, but let's not dwell on that too much.
Very mixed reviews.
Indeed.
Well, let's not dwell on that too much, because
No,
I should be so lucky as to be able to act
the answer
like
to
her.
Stephen Marsh, no sex game. It is not about that person.
Oh, stop
Marsh,
it!
I'm not reading that
Stephen
one out.
Marsh, very naughty.
It's interesting.
But anyway, the point
TJ
is that
Powell, the TJ Powell, the thing about Squid Game. Years ago,
back.
before
Okay.
I want to come to sex education now. I'm going to talk about it.
we can. Well, yeah, okay. I'll leave that with you and Phil to sort out yourselves. Before you were born, there was a film with Peter Sellers, and it starred Ringo Starr. He was in a band called the Beatles. He played the drums for them. And it's called The Magic Christian.
Who are the Beatles?
They were toe-tapping, lovable four mop tops from Liverpool.
Okay,
It doesn't matter. Moving on.
amazing.
And, so it's Peter Sellers, and it was a very rich guy, and Ringo Starr is his sort of ingenue that he put under his wing. And there's a scene where
That was Paul McCartney, wasn't it?
No, stop it. There was a scene where there was a swamp, and people would swim through this crap for money. And at the time, it was deeply shocking and seen as great satire that anyone would do something so ghastly as swim through this kind of repulsive man-made swamp for money. And of course now, with reality TV and everything, it's a daily occurrence. It's an absolute daily occurrence. It's just so weird how life imitated art, because it was seen as extreme, as extreme as you could make it. It was quite controversial. And now, that's what everyone does. Swim through sewer to make money. It was. I just thought that was a kind of, and then Squid Game is the natural, progression from that. It's weird how we've changed. Weird.
We're changing fast too.
We are changing fast. Did we talk about the father?
A little too fast.
Did we talk about the father? I'm just going to shove in the film The Father, which I.
Father, we didn't. But hold that thought 2 seconds. TJ, on the subject of sex education, what were your thoughts? What were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah, I only started watching that a few weeks ago, but I thought it actually provided good sex education, given the name. And when I was at school, there was useless sex education. I didn't know anything about all that sort of stuff as I went through school. You learn it from online or however else you can find that kind of stuff. But I didn't have very good sex education.
And I suspect the stuff you learn online is not quite the same in real life.
But it's
let's
an
not dwell on that
education
too
nonetheless.
much. But it's actually, Gillian Anderson's character is actually a relationships therapist, and her sort of raison d'etre in that series is she is trying to, through her son Otis, who's the lead character, she's trying to sort of get it so that the high school that he goes to, one Moordale, which I don't think is an actual place, but there's still that's the name of the fictional high school, Moordale High, and through that, she's trying to implement decent sex education into the curriculum of that school. It's it's a very well thought out production. There's a reason why there are 3 series of it. It's because it's one of Netflix's success stories, and it is absolutely worth watching if you do get the chance to.
Good. It's been very well reviewed, Phil.
Yeah. I even think something in it, one of the young girls has to go through an abortion, and it kind of shows the experience of abortion, and it kind of just shows it in a way that I understand if people need to go through abortion. I don't judge that. However, it shows it in a way that is maybe really consider contraception when having sex at 15, 16 years old, prior to maybe having to experience abortion. I didn't know how abortion worked, neither did my girlfriend when watching it, and it kind of would motivate a young person to think, maybe I should use contraception when having sex when you're young. And I think that kind of education could be pretty useful for young people.
Yeah.
How interesting. How very interesting. What an interesting thought. Because you never think that shows can have that sort of impact.
Well, especially when they're rated 18, but let's not dwell on that.
No, but they've called it sex education for a reason.
This is true.
And so it'll attract an audience of 18 plus and indeed people below that. But actually, I think that's the raison d'etre of the program, is to actually help with sex education. So it's
one
working.
would hope. Chantal, what else have you spotted?
Oh, hang on, Chantal, can I save you and can I save TJ Power? Can I save everybody from about 2 hours of wasted time?
Yes.
On Amazon, the new Amazon film Infinite.
Oh,
just don't.
Oh,
just don't. They
Oh.
spent about £1 gazillion because the effects are huge. The stunts are gigantic.
Wow.
And they spent, well, when you and I met last week, if you'd have got an envelope and said, well, here's the script, and I go, yeah, that'll work. I think that's what they did with the script. They spent about 75p on the script, and the rest it was just mind-bendingly terrible. And this was, I don't know what the hell they were thinking.
Such a disappointment.
And they had Liz Carr. Now, if you watch Silent Witness, which I'm obsessed with,
yeah,
Liz Carr is the wonderful actress who mostly is in a wheelchair. And she's a Twitter pal. And I just admire her and what she does. And she turns up in an outrageous blonde wig and an American accent in a wheelchair as some sort of scientist, usual thing. And I wrote to her and I said, I've just struggled through. It was lovely to see you. I love the wig. And so she came back with some very funny gags and she said, thank you for persevering with it. So I think the cast got the message. And it's Mark Wahlberg. I love Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg's
indeed.
Great. I just assume he had a tax bill to pay or needed a new house or his private jet needed renovating. I don't know.
I don't think he needs the money.
No, wow.
Yeah, Mark can go up.
That's what I thought about his new single, but there you go.
It was I was like, God.
Now, Russ, you wanted to talk about The Father, which is a film about dementia with Anthony Hopkins.
Yes, just very briefly. I went to a Q&A and a thing. I rarely go as an exception because it was a school. It was my old school put it on in town. And the director, name's gone right out of my head, not the director, the producer was there, who also did My Week with Marilyn and was one of the, worked with Colin Vaines, my pal, and with Gangs of New York.
David Parfitt.
David Parfitt, thank you very much. What a charming man who's a school governor by chance. I sat there, and all I will say is this, that I had plans that evening because I was in town. I thought I'd go to Soho and meet some pals, etc. I had to go straight home. It was magnificent. It was, TJ, if you want to see a masterclass in acting and try and understand what acting at the very highest level is, Anthony Hopkins, it was extraordinary. Just extraordinary.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Good topic to discuss as well.
I'm in trouble again. Right, we're not saying another word. Chantal, you've got the next time.
Being told off. All right, I'm going to rattle through.
Twice in one show.
I'm going to rattle through a few more things. I decided to look for something silly. I'm sure you know who the actor Jason Statham is, who is a sort of walking piece of movie industry just in his own right. He is the brand Jason Statham. What you see is what you get. There are a few actors like him, Gerard Butler, Vin Diesel. You know you're going to get a crash, bang, wallop, and probably going to get a good ending. Jason Statham is a great British lad. He's, a working class fella. He's made himself an enormous Hollywood star. He's worth nearly $100 million, I think, by all accounts. And some would say he's very monotonal in that what you see is always the same delivery and the same type of character. I think he's got a broader range than that, but he also knows what he's really good at, and it's playing a great big crash bang wallop type of I'm going to beat everybody up and I'm going to come out on top. He knows his craft. He does it really well. And he's in a brand new movie at the moment. Well, it's not a brand new movie. It came from 2014, but it's just appeared on Netflix and it's called Homefront. And it's, he's an ex-cop, he's got a daughter, there's a drug dealer down the road. You don't really need to know more than that, other than if you want 2 hours of perfect silliness with Jason Statham beating up absolutely everybody he meets, this is the movie for you. It's a bit of a boys' film, and it's a great 2 hours. So
it's great.
That sounds like a good Sunday afternoon.
It's a perfect Sunday afternoon. I'm not, you don't need to know more than that, really. But it's just nice to have a bit of sort of relatively light-hearted silliness. And it's not a comedy.
No, he delivers every time.
Yeah. And the bad guy is James Franco, who's also very, very good American actor,
nice.
James Franco. And he plays the baddie, and it all gets messy, but it's well made. It's had quite a lot of money thrown at it, and it absolutely delivers. So something else that I watched this week, and you guys might know a little bit more about this story. I personally didn't know the story at all. BBC Sunday Night has a new 4-part series called Ridley Road, which is a story that is based around the rise of a fascist brigade and
the black shirts, isn't it?
Anti-fascism at the end of the 1950s, beginning of the 1960s in the UK. It's based around a real life character who's a total Fruit Loop by all accounts, who is called Colin Jordan, who in real life is a guy who is there to support Nazism coming into the United Kingdom. He runs a party which rather bizarrely is called the National Socialist Party, which sounds like a bit of a misnomer when it's actually all about proposing the rise of Hitlerism again. He thinks Hitler is, in real life, this is a man who thought that Hitler was going to literally rise again. He was going to come back from the dead, and he was going to rise again. He also, during his lifetime, went to jail twice for racist behavior, and also was caught by the police for stealing 3 pairs of red ladies' knickers from a supermarket in the north of England. He's a crazy kook, this guy, but he was deeply dangerous at the beginning of the 1960s. That is the.
If you don't mind me saying, Chantel, you could have written his dating profile.
Well, I probably could, although I wouldn't date him, let me tell you. Yeah. He is the central character. And the background that I've sort of given you about the rise of these pro-Nazis in the UK, that was all happening. That was happening for real. I had no idea about this until I looked into the background behind the story, having watched the first episode. What's layered on top is a sort of amateur infiltration by a hairdresser from Liverpool who goes in undercover, and in fact she is a young Jewish girl who is obviously on the other side, and they are trying to expose this man and trying to stop all of his hateful behavior. So I've only seen episode 1. It only started last Sunday. I think it's going to be worth watching. The story itself is fascinating, and I think anything that throws a light onto the darker corners of our world that actually helps, like sunlight, get rid of them, then that's got to be a good thing.
The other thing I'd say as well about sort of the whole around
hang on a sec. You can binge watch the whole thing on iPlayer. You can see all 4 episodes in one go.
Okay.
It stars Tracy Ann Oberman, who I write to most days. Eddie Marsan, who I write to.
Eddie Marsan, who we love.
And they are absolutely tremendous in the part. And Rory Kinnear, who's one of Britain's greatest actors,
he is
plays this revolting Colin Jordan. It's an amazing ensemble piece.
Yeah.
I would say about, to those who don't actually know about the story that surrounds the Battle of Cable Street, I know it's Ridley Road is the name of the drama, but Battle of Cable Street, the rise of the black shirts, Oswald Mosley's gang and all of that.
Yeah.
I would say that if ever anyone likes the idea of, this is going to sound, I'm not supposed to try trivializing it, but bear with me here. If you like the idea of sort of the fantasy world in which the good guys come out on top, then this is actually sort of something to watch, because although it's the thought process behind it and what actually really did happen back in that day is pretty gruesome, it's not very pleasant at all. Good does triumph over evil. And if you do want to see that for real, I think in a world now more than ever where we need to know that sometimes good can triumph over evil for real, then this is probably actually an example of what to watch, really.
Yeah.
This show, when I watched it, Chantal, very briefly, it gave my stomach was in a knot from the beginning to the end. And my grandmother and my mother grew up, and I used to be, as a kid, 1.9 miles from Ridley Road.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, for those that don't know the story, the background to it, it's a good drama. It's well done. It's well written, and I think it's worth a watch. But the history is fascinating. So that's BBC, and it's all there. Yeah.
All available on iPlayer, or you could watch it in real time on a Sunday evening on BBC One. Right, what else have you spotted, Chantal?
So ITV's big drama of the last 10 days or so is Hollington Drive. So we've got Ridley Road, we've got Hollington Drive, we've got Coronation Street, we've got Emmerdale Farm, we've got all sorts going on. But anyway, Hollington Drive is a new 4-part drama on ITV with the lovely Anna Maxwell Martin, who is the mum. Very briefly, the story is of her and her sister, Rachel Sterling, who's the local headmistress. They both have a child of similar ages who are called Ben and Eva. But one of their classmates, who is a young boy called Alex, goes missing and is found and not in a good way. And it's then a story about whether the children have had anything to do with the untoward happenings towards this young boy called Alex, and how the sisters begin to turn on each other, how the children begin to turn on each other. It's quite convoluted, but I think it's going to be worth watching. I've only watched the first episode so far, but it grabs you very quickly at the beginning. And Anna Maxwell Martin, I just think, is a terrific
Isn't she
actress.
the horrible smug woman from Line of Duty? Is that her?
She is.
Oh.
That's exactly who she is. And you just wanted to sort of smack her in Line of Duty, but she's a tremendous actor. So that's definitely worth watching. It's only a 4-parter, so even if we get a bit disappointed by the end, we won't have wasted too much of our lives, but it's got a good gripping hook at the beginning. And then 2 political documentaries, which sounds a bit odd, but they are both like thrillers in their own right. One is a fantastic, absolutely brilliant 5-part series on BBC Two, which is about Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. And it goes right back to the beginning of their relationship when they're both just out of university, and takes you all the way through to the end of the Gordon Brown
administration. Yeah,
exactly. It is so well put together. It's the same people who put together a very good documentary series about Margaret Thatcher a couple of years ago, which was also really worth watching and is still on the BBC iPlayer. Anyway, it is out there. It's really interesting looking back at politics through the rearview mirror, because I got so much more out of it than I did living through the time. Because when you're going through it at the time, you're not quite sure what's really going on. You don't really know. But this has got every single person from the cabinet of all of those different administrations and Alistair Campbell basically fessing up and telling you what was going on. It's brilliant.
And Chantal, did you ever think you would be able to live in a time where you'd look back on that time and think, actually, maybe it wasn't as bad as we first thought?
Well, you're absolutely right about that. You are absolutely right. There was a bit of me thinking that, quite a lot of what was done was actually done for all the right reasons and by good people with great intent. And then bits of it where you went, my God, that went so horribly wrong.
Interesting how TJ Powell would be looking at this at 24 and thinking, is this the world I really want, or was the past better?
Yeah. Well, we learn so much from the past. That's the point. And we need to keep looking at the past to make sure that it gives us course correction for the way to go forward. And I think similarly, the other documentary that I've picked out is called Obama in Pursuit of a More Perfect Union. And it's a Sky series. It's a 3-parter. It's really watchable. And it's basically about whether the basic premise is whether Obama could right the wrongs that had been done to people of color in America, and whether he set America on the right path to make that happen. It's brilliantly produced. It is incredibly well researched, and it's really worth watching. And that's on Sky.
And my mother has chimed in to ask whether or not you have seen Mrs. Wilson on Netflix.
Yeah, well, I saw it when it first came out, and it's a really good series. It's terrific. Yeah.
Ramsey says the Blair Brown program's on my list. When I worked in the House of Commons, I shared an office with Gordon Brown for a year.
Oh, wow. I'd love those stories.
Very cool. Can you imagine what that must be like? That was fantastic. TJ, what are you watching? Very quickly.
What am I watching? I quite like watching movies over TV shows. And we're just streaming through all the different movies on Netflix or Prime. I watched Catch Me If You Can 2 nights ago. And I thought that was very, very good.
Is that Leonardo DiCaprio in that, is it?
Yeah, it was an older film by Leo, or not by him, but with him as the star. And that was pretty cool. I watched a film called Prisoners recently with Hugh Jackman. That was a thriller on Netflix, Prisoners.
Prisoners,
which was very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I like streaming through any of the films. I'm a big IMDb checker. So I go on IMDb. If it's close to the 8s, then I will probably watch it and give it a shot.
If you don't mind me saying, I find it very depressing that you say Catch Me If You Can is an old film, because it doesn't seem that long ago to me that I remember seeing the movie posters to that. But anyway,
you're not 24.
All right.
But it's got pretty different in it, doesn't he, compared to what he looks like now? He's very young in it.
Well, all right. But anyway, I know, but that's it. Sadly, I'm afraid that. Thank you both very much indeed, TJ. If people want more information on you, where do they go? Where do they search? What do they do?
Yeah, so if you go on Instagram, TJ Power is the place to find me. And this afternoon, if you've been listening to the Mind Conversation, you think you'd like to have a bit of guidance, I'm actually doing a free masterclass for an hour at 4:00. So you can come on, you can click the link in my bio, and you can come and chat with me for an hour, all about these phones, how you chat to yourself, your relationship with nature, all those kind of things. So
marvelous stuff.
I'd love you to connect on Insta.
TJ, thank you very much indeed. You've been a marvel as ever. Chantal, thank you very much as well, because honestly, we appreciate your dedication, the time you give us every single week without fail.
And I'd like to thank all our guests. We've been absolutely packed. Dr. Zoe Williams. Then we had Dr. Sarah Jarvis, who was fantastic. James Hayhurst and Dr. Anhared Rudkin. The great TJ Power. And of course, last but by no means least, Chantal Rickards with a fabulous weekly roundup of all.
Oh, and Liz as well. We have to say thank you to as well. So
we do. Liz and Jamie as well.
And Jamie, of course. We have too many people. Thank goodness me. That was it. Right. We'll be back Monday at midday.
Cherie Hewson on Monday. Don't miss it.
Well, there you go. You see, you can't say fairer than that. So we've got something to look forward to. There you go. That's something to look forward to, get excited about. One way or another.
Weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for your company.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.